And Councilwoman Granger, if she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear, kind, gracious, and loving Father in heaven, we humbly bow our heads and come before thee at the beginning of this city council meeting. Father, we do so with gratitude and thanks in our hearts, appreciation for those many blessings that thou hast bestowed upon us. So grateful and thankful we are for this great land that we have the opportunity to live in, for this great community that we're able to be a part of. Father, we're grateful for the freedoms and those quality of life that we are blessed with here. We're grateful for those great men and women who served diligently to protect those freedoms and that quality of life that we enjoy both locally and abroad. Father, we pray for those men and women and their families, that they might be watched over, that they would be protected and be blessed for their service. We're grateful for the great people in which we have the opportunity to rub shoulders with in our community. And we pray for our community, for those members herein, especially those that may stand in need of special blessings in their lives. We pray that thou would see fit to bless them and to bring those needs known to those members of our community that we may help them. Father, we pray now that as we engage in the city's business here as this council meeting, that we might have thy guidance and thy direction with us, that we would make sound and good judgments and wise decisions for all involved in our community. We again give gratitude and thanks for all that thou does for us and all that thou gives to us. And we do this in the name of thy Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 1, approval of the agenda. We need to take off this agenda tonight, item 12A. Otherwise, everything else will be the same.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as is posted, but removing item 12A.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have
I'll
a
second it.
Motion and a second.
IBI.
Granger, aye.
Dyson, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 2, announcements. Anything to announce from this body?
Probably you should excuse Councilman.
Yeah, I do need to excuse Councilman Bellison tonight. He is out of town on his Harley.
Maybe, Mayor, as part of our announcements, might I voice my appreciation and gratitude for those that put on our 24th of July celebration. There was a lot of hands involved there and in putting those events together for our community, and certainly want to voice our appreciation and gratitude for those who put that together and make our community a great place to be because of their willingness to serve.
Thank you. All right, item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Anything to declare at this time? Now we'll move on to item 4, consent agenda to approve the minutes from the city council meetings of 7/11, 7/12, and 7/18, and the board audit report. Any questions or comments on those items? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda, including the minutes for 7/11, 7/12, and 7/18 of 2017.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Dyson, aye.
Granger, aye.
IBI.
Thank you. Item 5, wrap tax. Continuation of consideration to approve the wrap tax distribution for the Veteran Park revitalization phase 1. Applicant, Leisure Services Director, Barry Blake.
Mayor, unless you have questions, we reviewed this last week with the council, and so we certainly recommend from staff approval. But Mr. Blake is here if you have any questions.
Barry, was there any further discussion with the engineers? I know some of the discussion that we had was on that. I didn't know whether there was any discussion had back of talked about some of the costs. There was a question brought up about the cost of engineering design, some of that stuff, and I didn't know whether there's any discussion that had been taking place other than that.
We haven't had any discussion other than what, what we discussed as far as what the range was, and that it certainly fell within that range. Yeah.
I am a little bit troubled that we're approving RAP tax we don't have yet. But I recognize that we'll get it. I just would rather not do it that way.
I was under the understanding that we had that RAP tax, that it was there. Yeah.
That's all I did want to clarify is that we do have those funds on hand. The other day when we discussed less, it was because we were already basically allocating the original 350 proposal. So
But we've gone up to 420.
we're at 428, and we would have also collected for this month that's not added to that yet because we won't get our statements till the end. It would probably be around another 30,000 and then 30,000 each month thereafter.
And so what's left in that
So
RAP tax?
as of this moment, there's 428,000. That
Okay.
includes the distribution that we recently did to Brigham's Playhouse a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
That's been deducted out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm ready to entertain a motion. You're ready to offer a motion.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to approve the request for RAP tax distribution for the Veterans Park Revitalization Phase 1 in the total amount of $420,000.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second.
IVI.
Granger, aye.
Tyson, aye.
Correct, aye.
All right, that is approved. Item B, continuation of consideration to approve the request for RAP tax distribution to the Days of 47 Dixie.
Mayor, I wasn't here for a lot of the discussion that took place when this was tabled the first time, but I've seen this similar proposal previously and have some concerns with the fact of, number one, I'm not so sure that the venue that they're proposing to build the stage at, being Sullivan Park, is a park that we've built for the reason to put stages in. We built it for different purposes, and I don't know that a stage really fits there. It's really conducive to what is being proposed here. So I do have concerns with that, and so my inclination is not to fund a stage, number one, that the city really doesn't have a desire for in that location. So.
I think it's a moot point. I'm not sure we have $180,000.
Yeah, that's.
Maybe it's a point of clarification, just so you understand, Councilman Trigg. Last discussion we had, we submitted a revised request, taking the request from 180 down to 50. Since then, the mayor has spoken with Mayor Pike. It's my understanding, as has Councilman Ivy. And unless I'm wrong, correct me if not so, gentlemen, St. George City has offered to give us one of their smaller stages to use for events over here. The discussion did incorporate utilizing Sullivan Park. That seemed not to be a selling point for most. Hence, we'll look at options B and C, they being Staley Farm or Pineview Stadium for various and sundry programs that put on. There's also other places that we can look at that can be used. The stage is collapsible and movable, so it wouldn't be a permanent fixture there. It can be assembled in a relatively short period of time if, in fact, Sullivan Park could be utilized. It's a good venue. There's plenty of parking. It just makes for a nice atmosphere. So to answer your question, I think we've resolved several of the issues that you brought up as far as the cost. I think we covered that part as well.
So ultimately, there is no need for a stage anymore. Sounds like we've got St. George City's willingness to.
Yeah,
Work with us on that.
nobody seems to have an idea how big that is,
Yeah, we've got to look at it.
but for most of the events that we have projected that we'd like to bring in, I think, I'm just guessing. It sounds like it would be adequate for a lot of those. If we needed to add to it, then, maybe that's a possibility, or get something like that to join up to it to for greater space. But other than that, that takes a huge chunk of the cost out of the equation.
Well, what we have in front of us is a $180,000 request for a stage.
Right. And then I brought back at your request an amended request taking the staging out because the mayor and Councilman Ivy had spoken with.
We don't have that in front of us.
Well, you did 2 weeks ago. I brought it in.
You say that's.
Right.
This is the only thing I've seen, so.
We originally had a 300.
No, it was originally 180.
180.
No, it was the first one that came through. The original was 300 and something thousand.
Last year, maybe.
No, when this was being heard 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was the original one, was 300 and something thousand on
Yeah.
that one.
And that was on Tuesday. On Wednesday, when we came back at
Okay.
Councilwoman Granger's request, we amended that down because we found out that we had that stage
So
available.
that's
to
his
us.
180,000.
No,
Was
that's
that amended?
50.
Yeah, so what happened, was you originally had the 300 and some odd thousand, that the original application, then amended down, and you did submit another amended for 180. I'd have to ask Denise or Tara if they received actually a hard copy.
I saw one that said 55 on it.
I remember it was amended actually during the council. meeting.
Well, there's-
Councilwoman Granger said, but we would need to see that amended.
Yeah, we needed detail. There was a discussion of, you said you thought, we pulled it down to, I think, 50,000, but we still don't have that request in front of us.
I brought it in 2 weeks ago.
Well, I guess my question then becomes, what is the request for then if it's not infrastructure? What are we investing money in?
You have a lot of different things. Mostly is to secure those kinds of events that would be revenue generating, and a lot of those require deposits, advertising, signage, those kinds of things.
So ultimately, I guess from what my perception is you're asking us to fund Days of 47.
For 1 year.
Okay. So that's ultimately what we're asked to do
Yeah.
is to fund the organization for whatever the Days of 47 may be.
Yeah, and after that, I think, with that seed money, there's no reason why we shouldn't be self-sustaining. And as a matter of fact, I think we mentioned last go around that if after the first year we couldn't be self-sustaining, then we would not reapproach the council for any further funding. It's a one-shot deal for us.
Well, my personal, I would like to see, usually what we ask from applicants is a breakdown of where those funds are going to be used, how they're going to be used, in quite detailed, and that's has been protocol that we've operated on the last 3 distributions that we've done. So my personal opinion is that's what I would prefer to see rather than just say, well, give me $50,000 or $55,000 and let me operate off of it.
Well, I like I say, I turned that in 2 weeks ago.
Well, but
2
that
weeks ago
was
yesterday.
still not specific to item by item.
I could
cost
get down to specific to number of signs, size of lettering, and cost per sign if you feel you need that. But I don't think it's worth that.
Well, I
It's
can
not
tell
worth
you
my
how
time.
some of our others do. They don't get down to the cost of sign, but they will tell signage X amount, royalty payments X amount.
Which we included, there are
those
none.
things, so we have an idea of what we're trying to fund or looking at funding, and then try to make that determination whether that's how we want to invest our citizens'
I
money
think,
into those types of things.
I think there was more than enough information to be able to make that decision.
Well, I haven't seen it, so like I say.
No, it was on a spreadsheet. It was on a spreadsheet
There was no
that I
spreadsheet.
did, and I brought it in
There's
and
no
handed it to
spreadsheet.
somebody in that office who said they'd get it in the packets to the council members. I did my homework.
I didn't ever see a spreadsheet.
Well, it was here. I did it. I brought it in. I did my homework. And I can tell all of you I'm getting
Do you
just,
have a copy of it with you?
no. You should all have had a copy 2 weeks ago in your packets.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Except for the tax info where it says days of 47 days of revised totals, do you guys have that folder? If you go to your council packet, and it says, there's that folder that says
Wrap tax info, yeah.
And then right at the top, it says days of 47 days of revised totals, it was in there last time.
That was still 180,000.
Look at the,
What's the date on it?
Well, today's the 26th.
Sixth.
Or the 18th or 19th.
Is it right?
Okay. Okay, 50,000. Funds to be used possibly to make minor modifications to a stage.
No. Thanks.
I don't think I have that one.
Thank you for finding that for us.
Oh, it's, okay.
I sometimes wonder where my folders are.
I don't have one either.
Jeff, can you share with us what you're,
Yeah, you want to pass that down?
or just read it to us?
I can read it if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's okay. I'll just have him read it.
I'll read it for the benefit of the council.
I can't find it.
Basically, the funds, applications for $50,000. In the project description, it says funds to be used to possibly make minor modifications to a stage, either rented from or borrows from St. George City, and improve a performing area in the area of Sullivan Park to be used for an ongoing entertainment during the week of Days of 47 celebration and on a bi-monthly schedule throughout the year. The Days of 47 is a week-long celebration commemorating the arrival of the Mormon pioneers into the Salt Lake Valley and across what is now the state of Utah, done through musical programs, games, foot races, and group events like barn dancing, square dancing, and quilting that portray our ancestors' lifestyles, habits, and talents set in more modern venues. There would also be other events there. Project Merit. At the request of the governor of Utah, the celebration is to be made a statewide event. In order to better commemorate the arrival of the Mormon pioneers into the state, we would like to place more emphasis on the musicals and historical plays depicting the settling of Utah, and specifically Washington County. We have professional talent ready and willing to help with what we feel would be the world-class productions. These plays would utilize local talent and involve many of our community's youth. The citizens of Washington, Iron, and King County, some 150,000 persons of all ages. We have in the past held activities like parades, games, outdoor cooking, and dancing that allow the general public to participate and observe. Classic musical entertainment, banjo, fiddle, dancing, and guitar, along with solo singers, would be given more time and energy to reestablish some of the history of the area through music and stage productions. Maybe I'll pop down to the budget and timeline.
I think it's on the.
It says, give a precise, here's your precise line item budget is this. Cost of staging, which includes materials and labor, approximately $3,000 for needed modifications of the stage and cover costs, costing approximately $2,500 to accommodate the performance and performers, $3,000 for a sound system. That is fairly accurate estimate at this time based on our internet research. They would suggest getting a final engineering blueprint of possible needs and modifications in engineering. Signage to advertise the events, 4 signs at $1,150 each. The signs are reusable on dates and times, so they could reuse those. Advertising, they work with Cherry Creek Radio, who does a dollar for dollar match on costs. They would budget $2,000 for radio. Flyers, the newspaper inserts, $500. Payment for performers, $10,000. That's the ones for every 2 months. The excess holdover from a less expensive event would allow us to bring in bigger names for the main event. Senior, let's see, like Cotton Days, Senior Games, Marathon, Ironman competitions. Also can use to assist groups who need to travel for events like national clogging competitions, square dance scholars, bike racers, etc. Budget of $40,000. No salaries are paid from these monies. Incidental expenses of $2,400 for unforeseen contingency costs. Liability insurance of $1,000. Total budget $60,000. Anyway, that's kind of the budget breakdown that is listed. Anyway.
Well, on these ticket sales, how come there's a low $1,000? I don't.
Actually, our ticket sales were around $2,100 this year. It varies. I mean, you don't know who's going to show up and how much you're going to buy. So that was for the event here at the park. If there are other events, then ticket sales would obviously be more. And it's like I told Councilman Bellison, if it works out that we don't need that much, we'll stick it back into the parks or someplace wherever. But this way, we've got a little bit of comfort to where we can bring in some decent acts and decent performers that will actually be revenue generating, and will, again, to beat the horse that's already on the ground, we should be self-sustaining. We shouldn't need any more assistance from the city.
How many day event is this? It
goes all week.
A full 7 days in?
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And these performers, and is that all on one day?
No, we spread them out over the week. Typically, Monday has been what goes on Monday? Something happens Monday. Tuesday's what we call it International Dance Night. Wednesday has been Brigham's Playhouse has opened up their current production for free viewing by those who make it to that.
What happened this year with that? Because that didn't happen.
They had some kind of a youth tryout or what do they call it?
I had 2 or 3 phone calls that I had gotten because people went over and said, we're here for Washington City's Days of 47. And they said, where's your ticket? Buy it.
Yeah, they cancel on us 2 days ahead of time. So what we're trying to do is not to impose on their schedule. We've already got some professional playwrights writing an historical play about Washington County, more specifically about persons who settled here, the original 309 families. That's already started as of today, which would take place at the Brigham's Playhouse. They've probably run 2 nights, maybe 3. Then you have the square dancing. We had square dancers come from Vegas, Southern California, Salt Lake, Ogden, several couples for Pocatello, so on and so forth. And we're in contact with at least 3 national square dancing associations.
Were you guys the ones instrumental in bringing them here?
Yeah.
So you're the ones that invited them and brought them in to be.
Oh, if we do this, St. George participates, the other cities participate?
If they want, we try to get them to participate. The governor asked that this be a statewide thing, and we've gone to every city in this county and said, look, we're going to do this. We're going to do a week-long event. You pick the venue you want. We'll do the advertising for you. We'll help you get it together. We'll use our personnel to help you pull it off. Just tell us what you want to do. and I might as well have been a fire hydrant and they were dogs. You know, it just kind of sit there and looked at me like, well, now what do we do with
I
you?
can tell you one of the concerns that I have, and I can't speak for their communities, but I might can read between the lines, is most of us as communities have traditions and traditional days that we hold those celebrations in.
Sure.
And so when somebody's coming and proposing a difference to those traditions, maybe we start to say, just a minute, we don't want to deviate from what we do on our 24th of July. We don't want to have a play over at Legends Solar Stadium that our people are leaving our community for, because that becomes what Days of 47 is going to do, or whoever, you know.
And
so that becomes part of the situation to
Yeah.
say, if we're going to turn this into a multi-county event that's kind of been portrayed, and we're trying to appease and work with multi-counties, I can see where, at least as Washington City, I have great concern with my money going there.
Well, that very discussion came up with every town. Like Ivan says, well, we have our little parade. I said, great. Bring the 5 or 6 primary children with their wagons over here. Let them enjoy a bigger venue. If you want to hold your early morning breakfast over there instead of joining our Lions here, that's fine. But they basically have no celebration other than a quick parade and the early morning breakfast. Same with a number of the LDS stakes in St. George. They put on early morning breakfast and everybody goes home, or they come here because this is the only place that does anything. Hurricane said, well, could we have a rodeo? We said, sure, we'll get behind you. Days of 47 up north brings what is it, RPCA or PRCA rodeo in every year. We'll get them to get on board, bring it in, hold it at the fairgrounds. You know, Mayor Bramwell wanted to do that. What do you want to do? We'll help you. Springdale, you know, we said, you're over here. Well, let's do it. Let's do a women's bicycle ride. It's huge. They get something like 3,500 to 4,000 because it's women only up north each fall. Bring them down here. That puts people in your hotels and your restaurants. You know, for a minor entry fee, you could bring several thousand in talking, not to be a dead horse, and talking to the Osmonds. Merrill says, you know, if we can pull this off, I can bring 1,000 cloggers in here for a national clogging competition. There again, you fill your hotels, your restaurants, your gas stations, so on and so forth. But I think Washington City is lacking is the infrastructure to
Capitalize on those things.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where I'm still a bit undecided, or where is these events going to take place for sure? It looked like we got the cart before the horse.
No, I've already talked to Ralph and Sherry. They're more than willing to let us have that great big field south of their feedlot down there if we want to use that. Kimball Gardner said we can use his cave up there for 3 nights worth of dancing. We've already contacted local bands that play 60s and 70s music, typically Rolling Stones and Beatles. And we've contacted the college. Their student body said they'll take a whole night. Sun River said they'll take a whole night. And then the high school said they'll take it. So there's 3 nights of, 200-300 people at a pop to come in and enjoy old rock and roll and so on and so forth. Again, for a nominal fee. And if the city wants it, take it. We're not, we're nonprofit. We're not here to make any money. If you want to recoup the RAP tax contribution that you made, great. At the end of the event, we'll write you the check. It's just, as I view it, I get a little animated here if I get out of hand and just hold
One
up
of the
here.
questions I'd ask, especially where it's the governor is requesting this, why doesn't the state kick some funds out? If they really want to expand this across the state, why aren't they willing to fund it? And then if it's Days of 47, which is a corporation, why are they not willing? If they want to be branded in southern Utah, why are they not willing to participate in this?
They give us a little. They help out. And when I say little, I mean little. They'll direct us to sponsors like Golden West Credit Union, kicks in some, State Bank in southern Utah, based on people that they use up north. But
So
majority,
they'll tell where to go look for donations, basically.
yeah. I mean, they throw the crumbs out and say, go pick them up. They're running off a $2.2 million budget up there. Zions Bank alone put $750,000 into
That's the thing
it.
I look at and say, they're wanting you to brand them in southern Utah,
Yeah.
but they're not willing to do anything.
And the
with it.
reason the state doesn't is because then it becomes a political thing and you open yourself up to all kinds of issues that way.
Well, then I look especially at like in northern Utah with Days of 47. Really, what do? They throw a rodeo and they throw a parade. I mean, that's really all that they do.
Yeah,
up there.
yeah, they
They're-
have.
They're not involved in individual communities. They're not involved in other events year round. They do the 24th of July. They throw a 4-day rodeo and a 1-day parade, and that's their
about
events.
Yeah, but they're big events. The mayor and I were up there 3 years ago, and they had a few booths around there on the Capitol building lawn, and you could buy stuff for the kids while you're waiting for the parade to start. And we met with the governor, and he said, "Yeah, we need to get this going in southern Utah." And the reason they picked us is because historically Washington's been the only place that's ever done a 24th of July celebration.
Tell them to send some of that cash with it. They've got. I
We're-
was reading today they're going to have a huge surplus. So tell them,
Believe
hey,
me, we're trying.
I think they just put a fire out. It cost them $40 million.
I think these are all great discussion points, and I certainly want to support Days of 47. I think it's something that's not only important to our community, but to our state and to a lot of our history is bound into that. I do think that we should get some funding, but remembering one of the key lessons that I relearned over and over again as a child is if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. So I don't see how we can accommodate the amount that you're asking for, but I can see with your ongoing, with advertising and prizes, entertainment, gifts, and keeping things going. I don't know if we need further discussion or not, but I would make a motion to approve $2,000 for the Days of 47, and then give us an opportunity to vet out some of these discussion items and talk about it and see exactly what is going to work and what is not. I know that there's been talk in the past, and I've come to the table a little bit late in the discussion this year, but I certainly want to be a part of that. I don't know if that is going to help or not, but that's what I would suggest.
I appreciate the offer, Councilman, but $2,000, I'll buy 2 signs. That's it. Signs that can be used year after year after year. And I don't see another venue in this city that takes that into consideration. Matter of fact, if we stop and think, I told myself I wasn't going to get into this, but if you look at the amount of money that's being spent, no offense, Barry, absolutely, please understand, it's being spent on parks. We have more parks per capita than any other town in this county, and yet you just approved $425,000.
Well,
And what kind of revenue do those parks generate?
What you said is inaccurate about those parks in the county. That's an inaccurate
Well,
statement.
then it's pretty dang close.
No.
One question I have, if the taxpayers wouldn't have approved this by a slim margin, the RAP tax, where would you be at now? Is it you totally relying on this?
No. It's just we're trying to make a decent, when I say we're trying to improve the quality of the whole celebration. I think, I'm already on the soapbox. I think we owe it to those who came here 100 years ago. I think we owe it to our kids to create memories and traditions and so on and so forth, which we see not happening. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but how many of you council were there for the 24th celebration?
My employer would have let me been there. I'd have been there. I was there in heart. Because that was exactly, when you say traditions, I think that, in fact, I'll be honest with you, I sat on our strategic plan committee. And one of the discussions we had was about our community celebrations that we have. And one of those things that we shared out of that is they love, as I'll use the word that they used, they love the small town hokey celebrations. They love those. And that's what they wanted. They want those traditions to stay. They want to come down and run races and eat watermelon at the park.
There you go.
Those are the types of things they want. And so to me, I look at it and say it is important that we keep those celebrations in place. But I guess to me, part of those celebrations don't turn into week-long events, and they aren't these grand adioses. They said they want the good. Everybody come together, meet at the park. We have breakfast. We run races. The kids have a good time at the fish ponds, and those are the traditions.
Absolutely.
And as a community, I think that we need to support to fund those types of things.
Sure.
And that's where my motion
And
comes
that's
from.
where, to be honest with you, I would actually much rather make it a budget line item that we sell, it's a city celebration. And instead of coming out of RAP tax, that we should take it out of our city budget and
Well,
look
then it
at,
would be ongoing.
like we do the 4th of July, like we do Cotton Days. It becomes part of the budget of the city. I think that we owe it to our community to budget.
Well, I do too, and it shows commitment.
You know, in
on
the
our level.
past, it's always been, the church has always done it, so we never did that. Obviously, we've got some times changing now to where they're kind of moving it to the community and say, community, if you want to have a celebration, have it. We're done with you.
Well, I think that's another discussion that we need to have too, is some of the stakeholders, exactly where their commitment level is.
Correct.
And then that gives us a clearer picture of what we need to do and how we need to proceed.
So as far as a 24th of July celebration, I think that whoever that may be, I know there's been some discussion about whether the city, how we get involved with that, how we correlate with that. But I think that that I'm in favor of at least funding the 24th of July Day celebration. I'm not in favor of buying stages and other things.
Okay. Well, let me just explain the domino effect that happens here, right? Because it all comes back right here to these seats. The county says, yeah, if St. George will put some money in, we'll put some money in. St. George says, well, when Washington puts some money in, we'll strongly consider putting money in. You know, I got more money out of Springdale and Ivans than out of Washington City. And they didn't even send their royalty over. We got almost $4,000 out of those two towns who had no representation in anything over here, but they saw the value of it for others in the community. And yet we've never received a penny in the form of cash from Washington City. Yes, we've been allowed to use the park at no cost. And yes, there have been some very dedicated city employees that have helped with the setup and takedown, and we appreciate that very much, because we have 3 people, 3 that put this celebration on every year. Up north, they have 27. Not only you have for Cotton Days, so on and so forth.
Well, they have a committee that does that, and that's what I would encourage is that we utilize, whether you're the point man, whether there's somebody in the city becomes the point man of that we utilize the city and the community as a whole. And that's what we do with our Cotton Days. It's the community that throws that. It's a group of citizens that form that committee, and each takes a venue and does their thing with it.
And we approached the city over a year ago, asking for one of the council to help represent the city on that committee. Got no answer. Not a yes, not a no, not nothing. So, you know, and I take a look at it at you know, those employees at the community center, which, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, when it first went in, ran at a huge deficit for quite a while. A lot of, you talk about taxpayer money, you know, there it went. We're not asking for but a small percentage for 1 year rather than year after year. And we'll, you know, worst cases, we'll break even.
Yeah. One thing about that, though, there was some pretty good infrastructure put into place, where this one, we're not buying any infrastructure at all. It's whatever happens to it, happens to it. And that's the council. I know, sitting on the council that initiated the RAP tax discussion, one of the things that we stated as a goal of that the money from the RAP tax would be put in to infrastructure that would be an ongoing asset to our community for years and years to come.
Great. I can show you infrastructure that'll do just that.
Well, I don't see the infrastructure. I see it going into sound systems that walk away tomorrow or break down. I see it, you know, like I say.
And you're not going to have plumbing go bad at the community center. You're not going to get a leak in the pool. You're not going to have lights go out or any of that kind of stuff.
There's some ongoing maintenance issues. No
okay. You get that no matter where you go.
But I look at a Veterans Park remodel and those things that become solid assets. And I guess that's where my allegiance goes to.
Rick, I'm the council committee member for Days of 47.
Okay.
Since I came onto the council, that was part of one of my committees.
Well, I mean, we only have $8,000 left in the RAP tax.
I don't need it.
You don't want $2,000.
I don't need it right now. I mean, you know, we're done until next year, but to really plan this and start lining up things that we want to do, we've got to start in November, December.
See, I don't see the council has decided that they want a big 5-7 day celebration. I think they want a 1 day celebration is what I'm hearing. I don't think they're prepared to act on your request. That's kind of my listening to what's going on here.
Personally, I find that sad. I find that to be a bit of a a sad situation that you couldn't take enough pride in the city and what happens here to let people know that you are here and that you can do a professional and well-planned and organized celebration, especially when nobody would be sitting here if 100 years ago, the people coming from Salt Lake down had the same attitude of, guess what? There's no trees down there. I ain't showing up.
Well, I think we do a pretty good job with celebrations.
I think we do too, because a lot of work goes into it.
And for the betrayal that was just portrayed about this community, I think that's what I think is sad, to be honest with you. I think that we do a great job here. I think there's a desire to continue that. And I think this council will see that happens.
Oh, yeah. Of course there's a desire, because you have people out there who are willing to take that tradition and carry it on. The problem of it is you can't do it anymore because you don't get the volunteers. It's a little red hen theory. You bake the bread, I'll come eat it. Well, I got to be perfectly honest with you. I'm tired of baking. You know, especially when I've got to go find the money to buy the dough and the flour and come up with an oven and everything else.
I guess it's kind of been shared here. Your vision of the celebration is probably different than our vision of the celebration. I mean, if you want to carry your vision of a celebration, you may have to do it differently than this council sees it.
Any questions I can answer?
There was a motion.
I don't think there was a second to that motion.
No, there
because
was
it
not. There was
clear
a
that
motion on the floor for $2,000.
wasn't adequate, so. So I move that we do not approve this RAP request.
There's a motion.
I'll second that motion with the discussion item that's saying that we should either meet with whatever committee is going to run that 24th of July celebration for next year and work on getting a line item budget item to fund that
Well,
big celebration.
Maybe through the mayor council talking about what the contribution, what we do want to participate in, and what the contribution of each city is. I think I saw something in the paper that it was, the request was 1,500 per city. It's certainly not 59,000 per city, and quite frankly, we don't have it.
Correct.
So I think probably we ought to continue the discussion and find out at what level we want to participate, but apparently not on the level of this request.
Correct.
I agree too, and it probably needs to be done through a committee and again, address stakeholders and find out what we want and do an ongoing funding. I think that's a great idea.
Duly noted. So we have a motion and a second.
Correct.
Okay.
IVI?
Granger, aye.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
All right. Thank you.
Just to make a point, I think this belabor something that we said the other day. We need to have a committee that goes through this and make recommendations to us, and is required to do it within the budget of the money that we do have. That was, I think, part of this debate is, quite frankly, we've set other priorities for our money, and we do not have enough money to do what he's requesting. And so.
And I'll head that up as the committee person on Days of 47. We'll see. We'll have some ongoing conversations, see what we need to do there. Thank you.
Okay, that one has been denied. We'll move on to item 6, special event permit, consideration to ratify a special event permit for the Days of 47 Dixie held on July 24th.
I'm assuming this is just ratifying the event that's taken place already.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion that we ratify those events that have already happened and were well taken care of and went well.
I'll second
Have
that
a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Granger, aye.
IVI?
Thank you. That's ratified. Item 7, bid awards. Consideration to award the bid for the Fairway Drive Sewer Realignment Project. Mike Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. On July 6th, we opened bids. Well, we didn't actually open bids. We received bids back in on our Fairway Drive sewer project. We received one bid. So at that time, we did not open the bid. After that, we actually went out to, I believe it was 5 other contractors, requested them to give us a bid. So we actually had more than one bid to come in on it. We did receive 2 other bids back in from the 5. So they came in just as a sealed bid. This is under the maximum for the procurement code. So we didn't have to actually bid it. We could have done it under a proposal project. But anyway, it still happened pretty much as a sealed bid, but the low bidder on the project was Royalty Enterprise, which was the original bidder that put in, the only bidder on that date. So we're asking to award the bid of this project to Royalty Enterprises at $67,825.
I like the fact that it came in about $7,000 under engineer's estimate too.
Yes.
So,
We never want the engineer to be the high bid
yeah, we don't
or
like
the low
those.
bid.
I move approval of the bid for the Fairway Drive sewer realignment. For
Royalty.
royalty
Royalty,
at 67.
$67,825.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Nice night.
Granger, aye.
IBI.
All right, that's approved.
Thank you.
Consideration to award the bid for the 6712.47Y 7.2 AV 12
For 12
MVA
MVA transformer.
transformer
Yes.
for the Washington Parkway substation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is our, in preparation for the substation up in the Green Springs area, and this is a 6712 MVA
Gotcha.
transformer. We received 6 bids. Our engineers are experienced with 4 of those manufacturers. The base price ranged from $227,352 to $349,340. Delivery ranges from 18 weeks to 26 to 30 weeks. Most of the physical and electrical parameters are similar. 5-year warranties. I just would mention that the engineers also noted the loss evaluation values. These are not included in the cost, but are a way just to kind of determine the value versus the quality of the transformer. And Virginia Transformer has the lowest base cost of $227,352, as well as the lowest loss value cost of $439,478. And so it is the recommendation of our engineers that we award to Virginia Transformers. The other advantage, of course, that Virginia offers us, and this is very important and has been noted by our power crews, is that they're very familiar. We have Virginia Transformers on the rest of our system, and so they just like being able to work with the systems that they're familiar with and comfortable with. We did include in the pricing the sound test, the on-site loading and assembly, and the advantage of that, of course, they warranty it all the way through, locating it here. With their timetable, that puts us about mid-December, I believe, which is just fine, works well with our schedule. So the total cost for the Virginia Transformer and what staff would recommend for approval and all the optional adders, which is the loading and other things, is $252,352.
If there's no other discussion, I'd move to award the bid to Virginia Associated Reps for the said transformer.
Oh, come on. You can do it. I had to
That's
say it.
At a cost of $252,352.
I'll second your motion.
I have a motion and a second.
IBI.
Granger, aye.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
Okay, that's approved and awarded. Item 8, final plat, consideration to approve the final plat for Washington Vista Phase 2, located approximately Fairway Drive and Washington Parkway. Applicant Matt Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the applicant's requesting approval of the final plat for the Phase 2 of Washington Vista. This particular phase of the subdivision is proposing 38 lots. The area of coverage is 18.634 acres. The zoning at this site is the single-family residential 10,000 square foot or R110 zoning designation. Preliminary plat was approved back on May 25th of 2012. Staff's reviewed the request and proposal, and the proposed final plat does indeed conform to the approved preliminary plat. Planning Commission reviewed this request last week at their July 19th, 2017 meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for Washington Vista Phase 2. They did have, and we as staff put on a few extra conditions in the normal 5. It's number 6, 7, and 8. The 20-foot storm drain easement in the southeast corner needs to be referenced to the recorded document that's already at the county by book and page. The existing easements for utilities in the Washington Parkway and Fairway Drive also need to be shown and also referenced by their recorded document book and page. And last of all, lot number 48 needs to be decreased in size by at least 70 square feet, and we need to take that 70 square feet and break it up and scatter it in lots 46 and 7 to make them the minimum 10,000 square foot. We'll just kind of zoom in on there. You can see that the one is 9969, the other one's 9964, and that's where that's 70 feet off of lot 48, which has sufficient in it. It'll still leave it at a 10.9 for a quarter lot, so we're just going to have them adjust those lines right and left. Well, they'll have to both, those east boundaries will just shift over a little bit to make up that 70 foot that'll be equally, or just distributed to make those 10,000 minimum. So
Does the shift of those lines have any utility or easement impact at all?
it probably won't. They won't have to move that much when they're 100 and something feet.
Right.
They'll be sliding them basically over less than a foot, in essence.
So the stub it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, they'll be moving them roughly 9 inches, or 6 to 8 inches. So I don't think that's going to mess Mike's utilities up too bad, is it, Mike? He said no. So I think we're good, but it's minor. But what happens if we don't do this? Somebody goes to buy it, and then their lending institution comes says, "Oh, it's 10,000 square foot. This is only 9,900 and change," and it always causes heartburn. So we just like to get those taken care of, and it's not that big of a deal. We just want it done before it gets recorded, and then there won't be any of that stuff to have to chase later on. So, but I'll be glad to answer any questions the council might have for Washington Vista Phase 2.
On the Fairway Drive, do you expect a lot of traffic to hit the Washington Parkway off Fairway?
That road, I guarantee you, will be used once people know, and that'll be that secondary because it runs fairly parallel with Green Spring Drive, and those folks on that side will tend to use it more. But that's okay. We kind of intended it to be that way. So from way back in the beginning, when this subdivision was when we first sold this piece, actually this is our old piece that we sold, and we wanted that road to go straight through like that. So
any questions or comments for Drew or the applicant? The applicant here?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I actually heard the Planning Commission's discussion about this. It seemed to be very straightforward.
Yeah, again, I think we focused on those 3 lots more than anything else in the discussion. That's all there really was. We just got, and that was, if that's all there is on this, that's pretty good going.
All right, entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the final plat for Washington Vista Phase 2, located at approximately Fairway Drive and Washington Parkway, with the findings and conditions as noted.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Nice night.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 9, final plat. Consideration to approve an amendment for the final plat for Brio Phase 1C, located approximately Villa del Sol and Camino Pico, to extend Lot 102. Applicant Reed Scow, Coal West.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is for a simple plat amendment. Just to give you a brief little synopsis of this, right there on that top end of Lot 102, there was a 10-foot area there that was just left this kind of open space as a as a landscaping track for the entire, area up there. They wanted to come in and just take 2 feet of that. The person who wanted to buy lot 102 just needed a little bit bigger home. Thus, I needed to extend that. And because open space and common area is owned by everybody, instead of just doing a lot line adjustment, I said, we're going to have to do a plat amendment because it's a unique animal. Then after we started talking, we just decided to take the whole thing and put it into lot 102. We've done that 3 times in Brio already, and it's no harm to do it here. So that's basically the whole reason we're here tonight, is just to take that open space off of lot 102, make it completely owned privately. Planning Commission reviewed the request, unanimously recommended approval of the amended final plat for Brio Phase 3-1. Phase 1C, sorry, I still didn't get that fixed down there. It's Phase 1C. And just taking that area off and making lot 102 completely private.
So you say we've done that about 3 times, taken it out of open space and put it into lots. Are we replacing that open space somewhere else?
No, they were just little strips that they put in for features, and I'm not sure why they're always there. I mean, people end up landscaping the area anyway. It's not like it won't be landscaped. It'll just be in the form of under private ownership. So this Brio has plenty of open area. I'm not worried about losing these little 8 and 10 foot strips. And we've lost, this will be the 3rd one. It's not taking in away a whole lot of what Brio is. They have that whole area that goes down into the wash. That's all an open natural space. They have up by their community center. They've got lots of areas that I'm not worried about these little strips. I'm more concerned that they're left alone when I think they'll be better taken care of by the property owners as part of their landscaping.
Julie, tell us again why we're doing this.
Because lot 102 needed to be bigger for the home that's going to go on it.
Oh, I see.
That's what started the change. Usually we just do lot line adjustments with the property next door and shove 2 feet this way, pick up 2 feet that way. But after I looked at it, I just didn't want to leave this 8 foot strip out there by something.
What's the zoning there?
PCD.
So is that property across the street all, again, that 1.6 acres will remain open space? That's dedicated open space on the other side of Camino Pico?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have hopefully Reed and his people know what that is. Do you? Okay, so it will be open then.
Is that a usable detention basin?
Well, that's a trick question because yes, it's usable to use water in it, but
yes, it is.
That answer would be a simple yes. But
So
you have to bring your own fish though.
So Camino Pico, is this as it leaves Brio, or what does it connect?
No, this actually, there's more subdivision above it. If I can, not particular this, but there's more phases here that you can see. Future development, that's all part of Brio that'll go up. They just set aside this area that you pointed out as a detention base because they need it as part of their
I'm talking of going on to.
Oh, that goes
where
into.
Camino Pico comes across.
Isn't that going into that piece that the Jensen Minor that you'll be seeing your next planning?
That is the end of Brio then, basically.
Yes, that's the west boundary of Brio right there, and then you have that number 2 piece that you'll be.
Correct.
You'll hear. You've already heard. You've done the zone change on it and looked at that. That's coming as a different developer, but
Correct.
That's one of the roads on the north end of that.
Okay.
Proposed development coming in a couple weeks to you as a preliminary plat.
I'm assuming there'll be curb, gutter, and sidewalk still along 102.
Yes.
there.
Oh, yes. Even on that, there will be curb and gutter at least along the open space area. It's part of the road. So
basically what we're giving up is that 10-foot strip of landscape strip, one lot deep.
really, and we're not giving, all it is going from the tract HOA landscaping to going down, Joe and Jane property owner will now.
Oftentimes, and I don't know in a PCD, but oftentimes Joe's corner becomes fenced.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we lose 10 feet of open space because now it's behind a fence. And so we lose that ambience and appearance of open space. So
3 times.
yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody want to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the amendment for the final plat for Brio Phase 1C, located approximately Vista del Sol and Camino Pico, to extend Lot 102 to the plat that was as noted.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Granger, aye.
Nice night.
Turek, aye.
All right, that's approved. We'll move on to item 10, preliminary plat. Continuation of consideration to approve the preliminary plat for Vita Sol Vacation Townhomes subdivision located approximately 450 north, 1200 east. Applicant Rand Life Real Estate Incorporated.
Fired up Elmo to give you the changes that they made. I do have the other if you want to take a peek, but this is what, remember they had the pool up there kind of in between the buildings. They've kind of
I'm impressed.
shifted and pushed them down, and now this whole corner up here is the pool and the amenity. They took the pickleball courts out out of that area down in the middle, which that doesn't concern me as too much that they took them out and just left that all a landscape trailed area in between. And so this is the difference that they brought back to you. So they went from 76 units, I think, down to 74. So 2 units were ousted.
Did they oust the pickleball courts altogether?
It looks to me, because I have not found them anywhere else. But anywhere you put them in this development, they're going to be and those of us who play pickleball or know if you have a court by you, and I think you know what that means. It's probably good that it's just probably gone. Probably better to leave it in some landscape open space for that popping sound that you get, even though it's fun to play. If you live around it, it's not the greatest thing to hear on a constant basis. So with that, as of course, the Plan Commission, if you have a report, reviewed at their June 21st meeting, they unanimously recommended approval. They did have some conditions on there that we went through. They did add number 12, 13, and 14, the Bullock Street be fully improved, and that's out on the area that you see in the plat. That particular area right there. That has that kind of blocking. It'll have to be fully improved up there. The section monuments as part of legal description need to be added to the plat. The pool associated amenity, now this is part of that number 14, have been moved to that area that we see as a great improvement, dropping two units from 76 to 74.
Was there an issue with the RV parking?
No, we just relabeled it. That was one of the things in the, we didn't want to call it RV parking. It's just called boat, utility trailer, etc. parking instead of, we don't want RVs parked in there. So that's why they're just calling it boat.
Was the space adequate to pull them in?
The space will be adequate for that, for a truck and a trailer with even a boat. And it won't go all the way back, even though they'll probably build it that way. But I'll probably look at that in construction drawings, maybe not go completely all the way back. Maybe at the end of it, do some landscaping, because I don't know. It'd have to be a really big truck and a really long boat to take up that whole area. So I don't want it all just put in asphalt all the way back there. It'd be better to leave the last so many feet landscape to match.
Drew, why is the section monuments not on it already? Part of the legal description.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that. Bob's here. I'm going to let him answer that question. So, because it'll be curious. I'd like to hear the answer. So.
Council, Mayor Bob Hermanson with Bush and Gudgel. Appreciate you guys' time again tonight. Answer your question, and for about the section corners, that's just an error on my part. That's all. That's all that it is. It is called out in the legal description, but they're just not showing it. We're happy to add that on there.
There's no problem with them.
No. They all relate to everything else around there. They're all the same monuments. I think Drew covered everything that we went through. You know, we had a lengthy discussion about kind of how it was gonna work and the feel and the amenities and what was going to go on there. We looked at reconfiguring it. In the end of the day, the developer felt like eliminating the pickleball and taking that value savings there and adding it into a nicer pool area in this corner area was a better option rather than trying to deal with the noise and the potential lighting and all of these other things with the pickleball. So it just completely got eliminated. And the intent is that, as Drew stated, that we did lose 2 units doing this in this option. But the intent is just to make the pool and the pavilion area nicer with the saved funds from the pickleball.
It's such a nicer project. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, from where the pool's before now, I appreciate you listening and understanding, because I think you've got a much better product. I really do. I know you lost 2 units, but I like
you
it.
could still stick a pickleball back in one of those RV slots back there.
Yeah, you could do that. But anyways, that was what the developer is happy to do this and feels like it's going to be a really nice area there, especially now with the elimination of the pickleball court and being able to do that. They feel like this is going to work really well for them as well. So this was our comeback, and wanted to review that with you. Happy to talk through it with you if you'd like. Any additional comments?
The only thing I had, there was a couple of notes. And maybe these are probably more for Drew, but you can be a part of that. It said that the fire department had concerns with the parking between the buildings. What were those concerns and issues that may?
Well, if it was an RV unit, that's what their concern would have been.
Okay, so they don't have a problem with it being a boat and a truck. It was if it was somebody.
Parking in there, maybe staying in it, and then being, that was their big concern.
Okay.
And especially the size that some of those can get with the heights of them and things like that. If they ever had to get back in there, they were worried about, the size of a unit.
Okay.
Was there some on-street parking issues too? They were gonna limit that, or?
Well, there's no
was that-
parking allowed, on these because of the driveways, et cetera, so.
Right. So it'll be signed.
There'll be signed.
Yeah, it'll be signed. There's no parking on the streets. But we've got we've
How
overparked it with
often do
this.
people follow those signs?
Hopefully all the time, but the intent is with the management companies that they'll be following.
Right after their car gets.
I don't know, maybe we need to start making the streets big enough that we don't fight
Yeah,
that, because
you're heading where I would like to go.
yeah, we keep making these smaller
We keep going to
streets and
these
then trying
private
to make
streets,
rules to
narrow time.
accommodate it. It doesn't work very well.
Yeah. And the developers mentioned that as well, and just leaving that to the management company, that's one of their main tasks is that, you can't, there's no on-street parking.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've
One contract with a tow truck will take care of that. Those guys, if you have those contracts, they'll take care of that for you. They'll take the call, they're there in 10 minutes.
Well, it's Christmas holiday and everybody comes down to get warm and they bring their families with them, and all of a sudden we don't have enough space.
You mentioned that you're going to have a on-site property manager. Is that right?
I don't think they're going to be living on site, but they have a local company that's going to be here, that they'll have a contact phone numbers labeled there. So if there's any issues, anybody can notify. Plus they're going to be around, right, to see.
And so we're all in the loop on the short term.
I was going to say,
Right.
I may be wrong. It'd be interesting to go back and look at the motion for the overnight rental. But as I recall, as Councilman Belliston made that motion, it was that there would be an on-site
I'm not sure it was
management.
this one. We did
Was it
do
this
that, but I'm not sure it was this one.
Yeah, and I'd say it may warrant going back and look at the motion, but if it is.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I asked the question, but I couldn't be sure.
We'll look into that. I know one of them does have it because it's a little bit bigger unit. I can't remember if it was on this one or.
Yeah, I was going to say anyway, we may want to look at that, make sure that if it is indeed part of that, it's addressed.
So it's a little smaller, it might not have been this one.
Size restriction.
Well, no, we don't have any.
Maybe I go off my own experience packing trailers and boats. One of the concerns I have is is the space that it takes to get that type of vehicle turned in to utilize that parking space. And I'm not so sure those streets are wide enough to accommodate. And like I said, I go off my own experience, which is give me a country mile and I'll find the only tree in it. But,
Code for that.
What they try to do is play right,
We need a code.
you know, so it's not a rounded one, it's more of a 45-degree to help. It helps that.
yeah, but that gives you what, 2 feet?
Well, it'll.
So you've got a what, how wide you've got,
What's the
is
dimensions?
it 30,
34 feet on the streets.
have you got 34 feet of asphalt?
Yep. Drivable surface. Yep.
So,
And that's the intent as well. And the developer was concerned as well, wanting to make sure that those, once we got to the point where we weren't doing RVs, I think it made a whole lot more sense to everybody because the intent is that the trailers are smaller. You know, they're not going to have a triple axle 40-footer rolling in there. That's,
yeah, no, I see it mainly boats and
yep, right.
wave runners and that type of
Right.
stuff. That's generally what we see in these types of units anyway. People that come in to stay in an
Yep.
overnight rental don't bring their trailer house with them.
Right.
If they're gonna bring the trailer house, they don't stay in the overnight. They go find another place to put it.
Yeah, that's right.
But, like I say, you see some of these boats and a trailer and I don't know, time you get a truck and a trailer, I don't know what you're looking at in length, but you're probably,
Well, the intent is to not to store the truck there as well. It's just the trailer, right?
yeah, but
Even larger.
if I'm gonna get up in the morning and go to the lake, you think I'm gonna hook my trailer tonight and leave it there?
Well,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
well, I guess if it could fit in that space, then maybe that
Well,
would
I
work.
guess
but-
that's my concern is are we really creating something that's useful? Or are we putting something out there that says, well, it looks pretty on a plan, but it really doesn't function?
Well, there will be a gate that they'll have to have access to in the front. That's that dotted line there in the across the front of the units, and then goes across the boat parking area. Yeah, that area right there. And so that's going to limit a lot of trucks. I think it's going to be pretty hard to. I mean, a large power boat, it's 24 foot plus a trailer, so you're another 5 feet plus a swim deck on the back. So you're another 3 foot, so 6. So you're close to 30 foot on like a full size. That's about as big as they get, and so you're 30 foot there. And I think that we've labeled units there as well. So we're 46 foot deep on the units. So can we look at the other, or back where you were? On the, probably on the other side so you can see the units. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So you're 46 feet, so 46 foot there, plus you've got the extra 20. So, yeah, you're 66 feet long to the gate. So they are fairly deep, in my opinion. That so you could conceivably, a 19-foot truck would be a long bed crew cab truck, right? Which that's as big as it gets. So we're as big as they get and as big as they get, and we're still a couple feet short. So you could conceivably have 2 foot of fluff in there with one of those really big rigs.
And you are providing 6 more units than what's required. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have slightly over parking. Yeah, there is a little bit more. Yep.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? You may be ready to make a motion.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Vita Sol Vacation Townhome Subdivision located at 450 North, 1200 East, with the condition that the on-site property manager is verified, whether that be required or not.
I have a second on that.
I'll second it. I appreciate the compromise.
I have a motion and a second.
Brick eye.
Nice night.
Granger, aye.
IVI.
Hey, Mayor, also before we go off, for Drew's also. I'm assuming that means that if the records don't indicate that we said on-site manager, which would be completely kind of a different standard than we've had before. But if it didn't say that, then the condition would be that they have a local manager.
Exactly.
That would,
Right.
represent it anyway. Okay.
It's gonna be one or the other, because that's how we've been doing the last.
Correct.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure if it's not, doesn't indicate it's an on-site, that it will just default to the other.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, I think everybody voted correct. All right, that's approved. Move on to item 11, consideration to approve an amendment to the preliminary plat for the cottages at the village at Stuckey Farms, located approximately 4800 South Cattail Way. Applicant, South Landing Development, Carl Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting, as stated, the amended preliminary plat. Now, this particular amendment request is basically to redesign the current approved plat and also to extend the boundaries of a number of the units. The layout of the amenity area, the farmhouse building and the barn, along with the parking area, both of these for both these venues, and that's up in that top corner that they've added this common area. That's going to be overflow parking, just be kind of a grassed area that they can come in and park at for the events that will at different times take place in the barn, which would be kind of a community place for different things that'll come, different events that they'll hold out there, and also in association with the farmhouse. It'll be a collector place as well. There you see in the center of the development. This is also adding addition dwelling pads and single family lots. The original one didn't have these lots that are surrounding the barn and the farmhouse are new. That's lots like 204, 203, 201, 202, and up on the top. Those are going to be a bigger, just single lots that'll be used. That's also an addition and a change to the
Is
original.
that taking away from the open space that was there? Was that open space?
Well, the whole, I don't know if I'd even call it open space. They kind of left, they've just reconfigured a lot of things and added, again, when I look at the whole PCD and they have all the lake area and all that in the center, this area was originally, from the original preliminary plat, yes, there's probably not as much. But from the original approval of the PCD, this is more than what was proposed. It was going to be all housing in there. And they changed it to go to these cottages and have made some amendments from the original. So that's kind of a two-edged sword there as well. So from the original approval, it is more common space, but from the preliminary plat we're amending, there's probably a little less because these lots around here are taking up some of that. If that does that make sense of what I'm?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew, I've reviewed this plat amendment several times. And the only thing that really concerned me or that jumped out was your conditions 17 and 18 and in regard to emergency accessibility. You know, this one question that I have is that it says that private alleys or streets less than 26 feet in width will not be considered access for emergency vehicles. How do our responders know that? How do they know where to go? I mean, what's the...
I don't know if I dare want to ask that. I don't think we have a representative here tonight from that department. This was just something that the fire chief wanted, filling in for the fire marshal, who's been out with some health things. And so this is one of the things that he brought. Now our fire department's pretty good about knowing out. When they get calls, they have a little book, from what I understand, that has any special unique things. They'll pull that up and know what they're kind of heading into. They look at these things, they try to put them in areas that they know where they may have to go under certain things. I do understand they try to do that.
I have no doubt. We have the best fire and police department anywhere.
Yeah, so, but
the
to
only
get to
question I have is...
the exact answer, I don't know if I dare try to
I guess I
answer
have a
that.
concern and say, why do we create those kinds of problems?
Exactly. Why create
That's where I was
exceptions?
heading.
We continue to put these
Yeah, why
small
do we
spaces
create
in
that
that
they have
create
to
all
have a
kinds of
book
problems. I agree.
That knows.
I agree.
So anyway, let me get, I don't know if I ever got through, we kind
No
of,
parking signs again thing. going on
yeah.
then.
Let's see. So anyway, if I may, I'll just go back and kind of finish through and then we'll Other areas that were previously labeled future development been incorporated into the platting with pads and other buildings, etc. To give you an example, that area you were talking about right here was kind of just left as future development. This area has been added with the cottages, etc. And then the extra parking was one of the changes. So everything that was on the east side of that one street you see there.
Here, it's labeled future development. They brought that in.
Which I'm glad. I was kind of worried about that area being left out there. So that's been incorporated as well. The total number of units went from 74 units in an area of approximately 19 acres to the new proposed 123 units in approximately 36 acres. Staff's reviewed the proposed amended preliminary plat and finds it conforms to the zoning at the particular location, which is the Stuckey Farms PCD. The subdivision is also in conformance to the subdivision ordinance of the city. Fire department, as you brought out, did have some concerns relating to those particular areas which relate to 17 and 18 on the conditions in those designs. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at the July 5th, 2017 meeting. They unanimously recommended approval of the amended preliminary plat for the cottages at the village at Stuckey Farms. And that's passed on to you, the City Council, with the findings and conditions, as you stated. And again, the fire department related items are 13 all the way down, except for number 19, is again, we just need the sectional information placed on the preliminary plat. So that is the report to you, and whatever questions I can answer, I will, but I wish the fire department was here.
Do you know where the gates are located with the Knox locks on them?
Well, that's in case if they do put gates in, that's what will be required. They haven't decided if they're
They
going
haven't
to.
decided on the gate yet?
No, they won't. We're
Yeah, I
just going to
can
leave
see
that
those.
because we were worried about on the main parkway here. I'm thinking if they're going to have those gate, that's where they wanted to be able to get through, is in these two areas maybe. They may not even have gates. It'll just be open or not. But if
I just
we
couldn't
just wanted
see
to
it.
put as a condition, if gates are in, because the folks want them, they'll have to be in the form of a Knox box.
Right.
They haven't proposed them. We just were worried and trying to think ahead in case that happens. And then some of that other stuff would just take place if that's, they want to make sure the landscaping there isn't, that they can definitely get up, especially if an ambulance had to come off of Washington Fields Road to get to unit 1 or 5, 10 or 14, that, the pathway there was sufficient for them to be able to do that. We're just, again, looking at worst case scenarios on a lot of that. That's where those came
But
from.
our chief has signed off on it.
Yes, with these particular
conditions.
notes.
So
Yeah.
too many conditions for me. They're adding a lot of lots at the sake of enough space on those roads, I think. That's making me uncomfortable, and it seems to be a trend that I hope we can reverse.
Is that detention basin, is it basically for just that open area in the farm area, the barn area?
Well, this one will be a specific detention basin. I'm sure it'll be sunken in whatever the engineer calls out, and the inlet pipe, the outlet pipe will all be to whatever those standards are. There's actually a couple of them. So there's one over here, and there's another one. So there's 3 or 4 of them throughout the project. That's just to help keep that water. Instead of having one big one, they've distributed it in the
Now,
small
could they
areas.
overflow with it like a 100-year storm or something like that?
I'm going to let the engineer answer that, because I think any detention basin on a given storm, certain, they're not going to be able to hold them all on. You can't promise 100% that any one of them will hold what it's supposed
Would
to.
the street handle it then?
It's probably designed to go into the street as a secondary and then off into the, to make its way. So that's generally how they run.
Any additional
Any other
questions,
questions for me?
comments for Drew or the applicant?
Good evening, Council. Brandy Walker, representing the applicant tonight. Couple of things to address. There's a lot of comments regarding fire. A lot of that is because, as Drew pointed out, we've been meeting with the fire chief rather than the marshal. So we've been meeting with Chief Evans, and so he had a rash of comments that he put on there. To clarify what that is a 26-foot thing. What he's referring to, and I can point out the lots, is he's saying that we have to have a concrete paved path to them, not for the actual EMS, the truck to get down, but for them to access each unit. So the units that he had a concern, Drew's got some of them shown right there on the end. Those will actually have sprinklers in them. The ones that are on the very far, we're rotated 90, so the north, but what it looks like to be on your west right there. And then the other area of concern, if Drew can, right, yeah.
So what lot numbers?
88, 89.
Since they're on the far end. Mm-hmm.
And 90.
And probably 87, you might have mentioned.
45.
The area that he what he commented that, what he was actually commenting on was right here. If you notice, if you can go a little bit more, Drew, the other way, either right. So units 44 and 45, those were the ones that he was concerned about. Not because they need fire access, but because if they wanted to get to the front door, he wants to make sure that he has a solid surface, not going through landscape, over grass, through gravel. So if you notice that little light swiggle line, that would be a paved or a concrete trail through that particular section. So he has access to each of those units, like with a gurney or, on foot, to where they can easily get there. So.
What about
Why would you
49?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Does he have the access he needs on 49 and 50?
Yeah. So this is really deceiving because it looks like a lot of big lots in there, but if you actually add up the numbers, we're 37, 32, 32, 37. So the way they pull a hose is 150 feet before they get, like, that's as far as they'll back a truck. They wouldn't even take a truck in there if there was a road because it's so much smaller than it appears. So the lots 48 through 52 actually have that alleyway above them that's going across, but they're saying they still probably wouldn't drive a fire truck in those. They'll stay out in the 52-foot public streets. So none of our alleyways, they intend to fight fires in. If you notice in the original approved plat where Drew was pointing out earlier, closer down to the Fields Road, which the fire chief has signed off on our construction documents, that long narrow driveway you see right there between units 1 through 9, they've approved that. And that's a lot longer distance. And lots 5 through 9 are all fronting onto a courtyard. And so the reason they approved that is because they said we won't ever get in the alleyway. We'll always be on a road frontage. So those lots that he specifically mentioned were ones that he, probably puts fire sprinklers in, or we just want to make sure we have a solid paved surface to get emergency personnel in there, like ambulance wise. That clarifies that a little bit better. And then to address Councilwoman Granger's comment, I don't know, Drew, is it worth popping that up? I could probably show you. This is our site specific approved plan for our PCD. You can see this area in green. I'll rotate it so it's the same shape. That is approved right now as doing the farmhouse and stuff. So if you look how small it is, we do have approval to do lots around that area. So we're really not encroaching into our common space or farmhouse area, because you can see the yellow, which is residential, does go all the way around there, just to clarify that. And then to address the concerns of detention, we've got a series of detention basins in this phase that will, if overtopped, they'll go down into the meadows. It's actually piped. That big, really nice private park that's constructed out there, it's almost 6 acres. It is a detention basin. So these are designed to feed into it as well.
I kind of forgot, but now who are you marketing this toward? What kind of a buyer?
Everyone.
So it's not necessarily seniors.
Randy, where's your anticipated parking for those folks that are using like 47, 46, 45, 44? Where do those folks park to access those units?
So right above on 48 through 52, that right there. See where it says 3 GAR, that means 3-car garage. So those are actually garages. Every unit has a garage, at least one garage. And then, you know, the outdoor parking, you can see the stalls along there. I don't know if you've had a chance to go out and look at the Meadows Phase 5, the cottages that are currently built. They're all, the front doors to these are actually facing each other. They'll be on the internal side of that courtyard. So I can point out it.
So ultimately, what we're developing here is a vacation resort. These aren't homes that are going to be inhabited full-time.
It does have the overlay, but my understanding, Carl can expound a little bit further, is that we're doing pockets of what would be marketed to a resort or the rental market versus a full-time resident. That's how come a lot of the reason we're amending now, because we didn't know what to build on the part that we had labeled as future in the original plat. Is now that we've progressed more, Carl's got a better understanding of where he's going with the marketing, full-time resident versus
I just see
rental
that,
resident.
full-time residents aren't going to walk half a block to their garage every time they want to come and go.
Yeah.
And that just,
Once again, these units are 30 feet wide by 68 feet. And I encourage you to go look what they've currently constructed out there, how the sidewalk connectivity, it's a little
even that, you're taking
courtyard.
47 and you're parking him clear up here. And he's got to walk through the neighbor's yard to get to his car
There's additional parking right there where Drew's showing as well.
on the bottom side here.
Yep.
So do these units have a garage in each? I didn't look at an elevation.
No.
They do not.
The garages are detached. They're all courtyard built. So the units aren't really fronting the streets, they're fronting each other. And it's kind of hard to envision unless you get the opportunity to go out there to Stookie Farm and look. And see what Andrew can pull it up. It's pretty neat. It looks like a long distance, but it's really no further than, you know, a larger home that's got a driveway out front, really.
Are those units without attached driveways selling?
Address. Carl knows his product a little better than me. So what I can point out real quick on this, what you're seeing. These are garages. And then these are the stalls. So these units right here, and these units are actually, the front doors are in this little courtyard. So, you know, if you're that unit, yeah, your garage parking's over there. It functions really well. It's really nice. It's a really tight neighborhood environment.
If you're on vacation, it's super.
Yeah, the houses are 10 feet apart. So if you don't like people, then you're probably not going to want to buy it.
I guess the concern too, to kind of comment on what Councilman Turk said, is that concern I have is that with the overnight rental, I mean, that might be okay. But for a person that is going, if it ever needed to be sold, if the economy went south again and the overnight rental wasn't working, I see a valid point in saying that we probably need to have a garage a little more functionally with day-to-day use. I guess that's my.
I can say, I think having an overnight rental component is probably good to have in this area, but I do get concerned when we begin to spread that component to become so large that suddenly we lose the value to the community. It becomes a resort area of its own making that may or may not make it.
I'd be glad to address any questions, Carl Larson. I can tell you that the result that we have and the people that come down feel just the opposite of what you're talking about. It encourages them to get out and walk a few feet. We're really not walking much more than 100 feet from any one of the units to where the actual garages are. I can tell you my whole theory behind this starting out. I understand exactly what you're saying, but we're doing some cottage courts right across the street that are a little bit larger, right along Washington Fields Road, that do have either double or triple attached garages to fit all needs. There's an awful lot of people that are in better shape than I am. That's because they walk a little ways instead of just coming out of their house, going into their garage and getting in their car and going to work. We've become a society that is used to doing exactly that. And that is what happened. I've read numerous articles having to do with communities that walk and are closer together in a situation like this become a much more tight-knit community instead of just coming out, getting in, going into our garage, getting into our car, driving to work, coming back and doing the same thing. And that's the purpose for this particular thing. Plus the camaraderie of facing the courtyards with the units facing each other. It almost forces you to become friends and to wave and talk to your neighbors instead of just taking off every morning. I totally understand these small units and the way they are not built for people that don't like people. And we have found that the demand is very high for these. We have a good percentage of the next ones already reserved, and it has become a focal point and a talking point of quite a bit of the country, quite frankly, to do this type of thing because of the walkability. We all hear about walking trails. We all hear about sidewalks. We need more walking trails, and we need all of these different things. And that's what we're trying to provide in the community, is a place that the community can grow together, and yet they still come out and they can walk a few feet to their garage. And that's the purpose of that.
Carl,
But
show
we
us
are,
the walking trails and those amenities that you were discussing. Will you show us where those are located in this project?
I don't mind walking. I don't really like walking and carrying groceries 4 different times.
Well, that's.
The interesting thing I'll just mention, so the concept is really follows the new urbanism concept that now the challenge, of course, out here in the West is you're only so new urbanism. And the reason for that is all that Carl has said is correct with regards to new urbanism. It encourages an interconnection and a mingling. The problem is we don't have our city plans out west, because we like our wide open spaces set so they do walk to the grocery store, they do walk to a library, those type of things like they do. It is a growing trend among the younger generation, new urbanism. Again, I like the concept. I do think it does encourage. We're limited in the West in the fact that we don't really have a true new urbanism approach. So really, their walking is going to be to the garage and to their house. There's not other amenities they'll be walking back and forth to. That's kind of the concept anyway.
actually, if you look at our overall plan, there are places that people will walk to. Right now, people.
So where does this one lie? What village is this particular unit in? Oh, so you're over on this side. Okay.
The green area you're seeing is the farmhouse area.
Okay.
And so as you can see, there's a trail that runs all the way up the Fields Road. It's stuck right here. These are those little cottages we just pulled up. That's the start of what we're doing. You can see how little they are compared to the lots. So by saying Carl doesn't want more big lots, as you can see, this is the crossroads. This is approved. This first phase is built. These are the next phases coming on for Crossroads. This is Village 3. You'll see a preliminary plat on this one coming in the next couple of weeks. There's a larger lots, homesteads. This is platted. All the meadows is built. There's that large detention basin, Park I was talking about. See the size of the lots over here. So it's really giving us product type. And I think that within the cottages development, he's done a good job by, doing the cottage courts, as he's referring to them, the ones along the parkway or the Fields Road, that do have the option to have the attached garage. And they are accessed from the alley, which is different than the little houses that we were just looking at. So there's several products in there. the idea of doing larger lots and spacing them out, we've done that, we're doing that.
So where are the trails again?
There's, the trail will come all the way up to Hills Road, and it's also on the north side, this map is upside down, the north side of this is called Ski Farms Parkway, which is built to about here right now. Carl's had a couple of great homes in here last year, get a chance to see them. The asphalt trail is on this side of the road, and it'll go all the way up here between the Crossroads project and what we're about to bring into the lakeside. You can see this green court right here has a trail running through it, and the trail also comes down through. It's hard to see on the preliminary plat, but it comes over here, comes through the farmhouse, and comes back down and ties back in over here by the meadows again.
And that'll be a hard surface paved or concrete trail?
There's little ones all over throughout the neighborhood. The Crossroads has a trail that comes out through here, and a trail that comes out from here, and it's those trails. Those trails are the, how do you call it?
Chat.
Compacted gravel surface. Yeah, but they all network into the main backbone of trail system, which is gonna come back around through the project.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of investigation go into this as far as use of trails and everything too. The reason that, for instance, a lot of us in today's world have hip replacements and knee replacements and all of these things are because they're never getting out on trails and walking them that aren't anything but concrete, for instance. If you have trails that are accessible, I think Brandy can tell you more than I can. I know she's a runner, but if you get people that are runners or people that like to push strollers and things like that, they like to avoid the concrete sidewalks.
I would disagree with the strollers.
Well,
have you tried to push a stroller on the gravel?
No, but I
Okay,
have.
don't work.
We don't, but we also have asphalt ones.
Oh, that's what I see.
And
And one of the
pushed
things
a
we're
lot
seeing
of
more
them.
and more of today is our bikers. And that's why I look at the importance of, it isn't just walking anymore. We're multifaceted
Exactly.
in what we do. And so
We have over 3.5 miles of trails within the development.
of hard surface trail.
Thank you.
Not today, but we
But
will.
when you get done.
As of today, we've got well over a mile.
I'm excited to start to see some of these other amenities start to come into play. We're getting there. And
Exactly.
it'll be nice when those come in. We've got the one park already, but like I say, I'd love to see those lakes and some of those other things.
Gonna name that lake the Hammer Lake?
It looks like a hammer.
That's not a bad idea. And just to address something, someone that was talking earlier, that's exactly what we're going to be doing at Stookie Farms, is a lot of those things. Bringing, those types of
All those
events
venues.
and those types of things.
I was going to ask you that question because looking where your farmhouse is, I see a huge parking area there. Looks like a big parking lot basically there to the front of it. And so I'm assuming that is what that's going to accommodate is events types.
Yeah, it's, the parking area actually is down.
No, I'm talking over here, right where you stand. See that big parking structure?
Yes. Mhm.
That whole thing is a parking lot.
That is a parking lot to accommodate the farmhouse, the
That's what I'm
swimming
saying.
pool,
So that's
and things
where
like
your
that.
events and whatnot are going to be held.
And we also, the barn will have a lot of the events, and that will be approximately 12,000 square feet, but we plan on having bands, and we plan on having line dancing, we plan on having dinners, and just all of the events that the fellow before was talking about. That's a lot of the things that we'll be providing out here.
We'll hurry, will you, because we took it on the chin tonight.
Any other questions for Carl? Are you ready to make a motion?
With no other comment. Maybe a comment before I make the motion is that, the concerns that I think that we brought up are legitimate, but I think that's probably something that we need to project forward and talk about those. But I do have confidence in our great
Yeah,
fire
that's-
chief.
That's the biggest concern I have is those types of, especially these smaller units this close together, if you get one going and they're so tight together anyway, you're fighting you're gonna need more than one truck in there.
Maybe that's a
the
discussion
concern.
that we need to have in future projects, but knowing that our very qualified fire chief signed off on it and that he feels like it's doable, I feel comfortable making a motion to approve an amendment to the preliminary plat for the cottages at the village at Stuckey Farms, located approximately 4800 South Cattail Way.
Have a motion, I have a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second.
Ivy, aye.
Same concerns. I think we need to look at our standards, but yes, Granger, aye.
Nice night.
Turek, nay. I still have concerns with our fire situation there.
Okay, that's approved 3-1. Thank you, Carl. Item 12, we scratched that. Item 13, public hearing. Item A, public hearing for consideration to approve a general plan amendment request, G-17-03, to change designation from medium density and low density to high density, located approximately 600 north, 1100 east. Applicant Kendall Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the applicant's requesting a general plan amendment. The requested area covers 5.252 acres. The current land use designations are high-density residential, medium-density residential, and low-density residential. All across, it's kind of just take these as strips and just divide it up almost in thirds right across the property as all those. The applicant's wishing to turn this 5-acre piece just into the high density designation as you see on your exhibit there in the hashed area. The surrounding general plan use designations are high density residential to the north and the east. That's the Bluffview townhome project to the north up there on it borders. Also high density, medium density, and low density residential to the south, with low density residential to the west. And the surrounding zoning is RA2 to the west, south, and east, which is part of the Turner Turf Farm property, and also the R3 to the north, which again is the Bluffview townhomes. The applicant's wishing to amend this parcel in hopes for future multifamily development at the location. The high-density residential designation of the general plan allows for zoning districts of just basically one, and that is the multifamily residential R3 zoning. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and held a public hearing on July 5th, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of G-17-03 to amend the general plan land use map as outlined above and shown in your exhibit, and that's on to you, the City Council. I'll answer any questions that you might have relating to this project.
I come about doing a PUD.
Haven't really got to that point yet. They pretty much want to match, I think, what's going on above them at the Bluffview for the most part. In fact, that road you can kind of see sitting there is stubbed out of Bluffview. It just kind of comes to a dead end right there. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to build it just like Bluffview, but that's kind of like the same use that Bluffview has. It could very easily come in at that as a PUD, especially with our new one coming. It'll be roughly, just a glorified R3 zoning with our new changes that will be coming forth here in the next couple of weeks on those PUDs. So it'll probably be the way to go. No other questions for me, then I'll step aside.
Could you pull up the regular Google map on that? I'm a bit unsure.
Bring it up on Public Works.
Mm.
Basically, this is the area right here. Comes right here, over roughly here, 5 acres worth.
Where's the low density?
Well, let me pop that up, and you'll be able to. So this is low density, mark this kind of yellow, and then this orange, this medium density, and this is the high density color over here. So that's why it covers all three of those areas. I just want to make it all this color right there.
So on the left is some more low density.
Yeah, and this is all part of their farm. They have their ponds and stuff here.
Okay.
But this isn't part of the, the change.
Yeah.
Then you have, so this distance between here and here before you ever get to that regular subdivision. So that's, this would be left, still low density.
I know Mr. Turner told us, but what is that horizontal line across there? Is that, do you remember what that?
It's all been bladed flat. It used to be, I can't remember what he said, I think it was just some strokes or whatever.
Okay.
But it's all flat, as I remember that station had. Yeah, this kind of straight line right here.
I say, when I went and looked at it, it doesn't look as like that now, so.
Right,
What's the occupancy on the high density multifamily that's up above that property?
They came in, they were pretty high, and that high density carries.
Denise is going to tell me anyway in a minute. High density carries 13 to 16 dwelling units. And if I remember, I think Bluffview Townhomes came about right in the middle there. If I remember right. So they were around 14 to 15 dwelling units per acre.
Do you know what the occupancy is?
Oh, you mean, it's just R3. They were single family homes. Tara used to live there. She might know even better than I, but.
Is it yearly rental? Do you know what it is?
Well, they've all turned into mostly rentals, but there's still people who own, but they're owned. They're owned homes, but a lot of people started out in them, kept them as an investment, and they rent them out when they moved on to a bigger home. But you can still pull these up and find 2 or 3 of them always for sale. It seems like they're available here and up at Mill Creek Townhomes on the other side of the freeway. They're much like this product. That are always kind of for sale as a starter home for folks. Some even have basements in them. They're full, 3 floors. The ones on the far east are probably the better homes. That's the kind I think Tara lived in was the bigger ones, didn't you? Oh, no, it wasn't you. It was somebody else I knew, but.
So the Turners own the property to the west where you can see the little pond on it. It would be kind of a buffer between that,
yes.
Between that high density and then the area to the west over.
Yeah, basically they're going to join the high density on the on the north and south boundary of those properties.
Mm-hmm.
But to the west, that pond area is not going to be touched at all. In fact, you can kind of see that that line that matches up with on your exhibit. It's basically right there. That it's not a property line, but it's kind of that. I don't know if it's a fence or something there, but you can definitely see it from above. That's kind of where that 5.252 acres goes to, but doesn't go all the way out to 1100 East. That's part of the next proposal on the next item.
Thank you, Drew.
Thanks. That's okay.
All right, this is a public hearing. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? You're welcome to come up and address those. Just a reminder, we won't be voting for this week. It'll be at the next council meeting. Any questions for the applicant? I know he's here.
I don't have any questions, but if nobody's coming forward, I'll make a motion. We close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion to close and a second.
Rick, aye.
Aye. Last night.
Ranger, aye.
IVI.
Thank you. Move on to the next public hearing to consider approve a general plan amendment request G-17-04 to change designation from high density to community commercial located approximately 600 north, 1100 east. Same applicant, Kendall Turner.
And roughly the same area, it's just a little south, but we'll dive in. The applicant's wishing to change this particular piece, which covers 10.443 acres. The current land use designations are high density residential, medium density residential, and low density residential, just like previously we saw the 3 strips of land. The applicant seeking approval to have the land use designation changed to the community commercial, we refer to as the CCOM, for the possibility to develop the area into recreational vehicle storage business and some small office buildings that would front the 1100 East Street. The surrounding general planned land use designations are high density, medium density, and low density to the north. And that should be to the south. It'll be high density residential to the north and low density residential to the west. Now, the surrounding zoning is RA2 to the north, west, and south. Sorry, that's not, it is at this time because that's still designated the piece we just talked about. Sorry, and with the RA2 and R3 to the east across the street. The applicant's wishing to amend the parcel in hopes of future commercial development. Community commercial designation and general plan allows for zoning districts of community commercial, which is C1, and general commercial, referred to as C3. This staff had a few reservations in turning the area into commercial use, especially due to location and the surroundings. The saving grace, though, is the thought that the majority of the residential developments in close proximity are high-density projects. But staff went forth with a no recommendation, not a denial, but a no recommendation to the Planning Commission's meeting. The Planning Commission held their public hearing, reviewed it on July 5th, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of G-17-04 to amend the general plan land use map as outlined in exhibit onto the City Council.
Will you bring that up on Google also?
Yep, I will be glad to. So this area just kind of drops below the 1, but you can kind of see surrounding.
So Drew,
So where is it?
I'm just interested in our staff position on this, because I know that one of the questions that we often have had come up with the residents in that particular area, especially those along 1100 East, you've got Pine Valley Townhomes, you have Kings Row, you have some of those others, is of course mass transit because of their inability to get to services. Was that taken into consideration when staff, you considered the neighborhood commercial was not appropriate? Because it would seem to me that would provide a service.
Well, this isn't neighborhood commercial. This is community commercial. It's up. So neighborhood commercials, your smaller mom and pop type shops. These ones could be a little bit bigger, and that's kind of my concern, is having that right here, as especially the area develops. That was all that I had. And again, the saving grace, why I didn't really feel real adamant about that, is that I started, again, as I explained to you folks, I always have this onion in my mind. I have to peel back and make sure I'm looking at everything. But with the amount of high density residential, sometimes these are really good amenities to have for a lot of people that have small areas and stuff. So again, I was kind of torn between that, because the majority of this that's off 1100 East will more than likely be an RV storage area, but the frontage on the street, 1100 East, will be more C1 type of businesses, as Mr. Turner has explained to me and to staff, is what the intent is there. So, but we don't ask for designs at this point. We have still ways to go. So
The one building that's across the street, that's a veterans home, is
that's
that
the
right?
veterans place, yes.
Do they have anyone here?
I don't know if he was here. I think he might have been at my planning commission meeting, but I think the only one who showed up was Dean Terry. Graced us on our planning commission meeting, and I think that was the only other comment. So,
Under this community commercial, what can that include, I guess?
Well, it's the best way to explain it. It's not big box, but if you were to take like Albertsons Plaza, that's kind of the best thing to say that fits kind of in that C1, C2. It's smaller professional offices, etc., but it's not big box. You know,
It could
so
be
it could
like
be
a strip mall.
It could be a strip mall, fast food, bank, laundromat, you know, dry cleaner. Yeah, we have vacation rental just right. You just looked at that project. It was right here.
You also need some services. Have vacation rental here, you approve vacation rental right here. This will be a townhome project. All in that area.
So, and then it's high density, I think, residential north of that Veterans Place already designated.
Is there good access from 11th East to Washington Parkway, or you got to go clear down to Telegraph to get there?
No, that brand new road's been put in. If you haven't been up off the Maverick, that comes down on 1100 East.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can kind of see it. This was a little, you know, that road's all in and built now. And there's the Maverick right there. So we're talking, you know, we're really close to that area right there. So that road is in. It's a beautiful road if you haven't been on it. Now, the only issue that, again, we talked about in the Planning Commission is this strip that runs right on, you know, that is the Turner Turf Farm right there. The other half of the road is built. That's Kings Row, etc. This does get a little scary at times if there's a school bus coming down there or things like that. That was brought up in the Planning Commission meeting. If you read your minutes, was this half a road is kind of a bit of a concern. If this place does develop and become popular, we have this area right here from Telegraph till you get up just past the town, the Pine Valley Townhomes is what it's called. Then it widens up. You can see the change in the road right there, but that's where the bend is. That was one of the concerns I had too. I'm glad to talk about that because that kind of held me back a little bit too. Was worried about that particular road right there as it runs all the way down to Telegraph. And its size is a bit of a challenge.
Can we require them to do that half of the road?
Well, they're not developing. I mean, you can if they agree, but it's by, I don't think, you know, the leverage wise, I don't know if we can force because the project isn't happening right here. If they're developing that piece, then absolutely.
But
I know it's a cause and effect.
Well, it's commercial. They're wanting to put commercial in there, and then we need more access than half a road to a commercial site, whether it's on site or
Well,
off
I usually
site.
have more concern with your R3 that's going in there. That many more cars into your high density residential going through there than actually even the commercial portion. But that's another.
Adding
another
to
component.
1100 East.
And they're on that half. So,
Correct.
yeah, but then we add commercial to that.
So, but that there again is another
That's not a
discussion.
commercial road.
We do look at, Mike, this require a traffic study, because we often, based upon the traffic study,
It will, yeah.
does have downstream sometimes requirements based upon, I mean, I like the idea of serving a kind of an underserved need, and not necessarily with RV storage. I don't think that serves the communities over there at all. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure they'd really care for it, but I certainly like if there's a seriousness about either neighborhood or commercial, community commercial, it does serve a need. But you're right with the road too. It's that's why I wondered on it.
But isn't that something we would address in our zone change and preliminary plats?
Actually, it's after zoning. When we start doing development, we look at, that's always the thing. They have to provide drainage and traffic. They're the two biggest things we look at when we approve plans for
And
anything
I agree
like that.
with the RV, maybe even a small storage area. If I lived in one of those small apartments, I might need a small storage area accessible, but RV, I don't know.
Drew, was there some discussion in Planning Commission about Telegraph and 1100 East on that intersection down there? Am I thinking of it? I believe there was. Yeah, that's the road that runs up. I think there was some development discussion about what was going to happen down there.
Well, they asked, I guess the Planning Commission, there were several of them, and Craig, you jump up. I think I'm going to hit this. I hope it. If I'm not, I'll invite Craig because it might have been part of his point is they thought if we're not going to improve all of 1100 East, if they would even consider doing this part on the south end where the intersection is to help. Was that the point? Go ahead.
Yeah. Craig Coates. Drew, do you want to just zoom in on the intersection? I think our concern as planning was just it's just not a very open intersection right there on Telegraph and 1100. So I don't know. Our suggestion was if we can just have the intersection widened enough. I mean, maybe not the whole road, but maybe the intersection was kind of our thoughts. And that was kind of our concern, was just the width of the road of already 1100 East, and maybe just widening that intersection will help the project.
Well, that is a tight turn.
Yes, it is. So-
And before long, we're gonna need lights there, and we're gonna need lights on Washington Parkway and Telegraph.
But it runs in my mind, the applicant was willing to work with that, wasn't he?
I don't think he ever committed. You'll have to ask him. I just know that it was something that we were worried about as planning, was that intersection, just because of the tightness of it already. And yeah, we have access to the north, but this access gets used. There's just a lot of homes up there, and it gets used. So that intersection was just kind of, we were nervous about it. So adding more homes and more with the other development to the north as well, that's more high density, and then in the commercial, whatever it ends up being. So.
Well, I know that we don't see this, and they don't have to show it to us, but I'd love to see what's gonna happen with all the rest of that property and how this all flows together. I mean, it's the same owner, right? Isn't that all Turner? You know, what's the ultimate plan, and how does this fit into that? And it looks like we're taking it on piece by piece, but. Yeah.
It's a good question, Kendall. You want to come on up? Yeah, come on up.
Kendall Turner. So I didn't hear the question, sorry.
Well, we're looking at two pieces tonight, separate pieces, but there's all that property. Do you have a long-term vision for the whole piece of property?
Well, obviously it's already in the low density as far as the master plan, but when they quit sod farming, then we'll get excited about something. Right now, we're not too excited about anything other than this right here. So I don't see an end to the sod farming yet.
Okay.
Good.
Would you anticipate that probably go residential, just probably premature to even speculate?
I mean, yeah, more than likely.
I guess the question I would have for you, the applicant, is do you anticipate, sounds like what's been insinuated, that the biggest percentage of this you anticipate being RV storage?
That's correct. Other than that, that's fronting 1100. Again, maybe some commercial buildings, and then the apartments or what to the high density to the north of us. But it's kind of deceiving because if right across from that rest home is you're roughly a 4-foot embankment. I mean, if people worried about visibility or whatever else, we did talk about even putting in a turn-in lane.
It's now 3 foot after yesterday's rainstorm.
I got it cleaned up. It's back to 4. So. I mean, so I think if we had a turn-in lane, and we talked about Telegraph as well, my concern down at Telegraph, and we don't have an issue with that. I was at a meeting before, and they were talking about Winter Haven and kind of widening that and having a road head south there. And I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm.
Yeah, we have a development we've been working with there, that is their proposal, and they're still trying to work some things out.
Okay.
So it isn't a for sure thing, but that's kind of the desire, is actually try and see where their driveway is now.
Yeah.
We're trying to get that so it lines up as an intersection rather than an offset intersection.
Yeah.
So, which will long-term flow much better for the community. Would you give any thought to going to more neighborhood commercial and something like that to serve more of the commercial needs of that area than storage facilities?
Well, no, we haven't, and I guess I'm asking you why would you have us consider that?
Well,
I guess
for a couple of reasons. Number one, as has been stated, there's so much high density up in here
Mm-hmm.
that really there is no service for those, for, different types of amenities, whether it's a small, I mean, you've got Maverick up there, but I guess we just look for areas. We're getting such areas that now you've probably heard some of our major intersections are becoming so congested that if we can get amenities to those folks more into their neighborhoods, then we don't have to go to the major intersections. We decongest by serving those people there. And I guess more of another reason is I always look at those types of opportunities for small businesses to grow and to flourish in our community. And so I guess that's the reason I was asked, because I felt like that maybe this was an area that, because of denseness of populations, that a small, set of little shops, whether it's the beauty shop and, I don't know what all's in there, but different types of things. I always look for a place like a Honey Baked Ham. I love, those types of amenities to go out and to eat at, those little types of smaller restaurants, just because I guess that's what I enjoy, is little smaller, quaint spaces. And so I looked at something like that, maybe being an amenity that could service those people there. And really, like you say, I don't know what the RV return on investment is, but sometimes I look at those and say, hey, if you can get some good tenants in your return on investment, maybe higher, or, do pad leases, or, whether you sell them outright, there's lots of different options.
Well, honestly, I mean, that we've been running pretty much 100% full, other than right here in the summer,
Correct.
maybe down 10 spaces.
No,
or
I can
so.
say,
I know there's still a need there, and I recognize there's lots of other developments that have, you're requiring stuff like that, but there's still a big need for RV storage.
No, I can certainly
We've got
understand that. I just,
We got
guess.
hundreds of people in the wintertime that are looking for a place, hundreds.
yeah, I certainly understand what you're saying. I'm not saying there's not
Yeah.
a need there.
Isn't
I'm
that
just
RV
saying that there's
storage
some
full
other
then?
great needs out there too, that I look at this area and say, man, this kind
Mhm.
of, that'd be a great
We've never
amenity.
given that any thought, honestly. Maybe because it's too much to develop. I don't know.
I can see laying the ground and saying, go park your boat out there is a lot easier. I understand that.
You had a question?
I just wondered if the RV storage, the other large storage area is full.
Yes, currently, I mean, I can't say we're full, but we're down three spaces that aren't full, that aren't rented currently.
You plan on putting up a big wall so people don't have to look at it,
Who's going to look at it?
whoever goes by?
Well, the turf farm's to the south. I mean, if we have to, yes. To the front, obviously we will, and probably to the north, maybe. I mean, it will be fenced, but who's going to be looking at it? I guess what I'm saying, because at 1100 East, you're not going to see, you're down low enough that you won't even see that. If we build a 6-foot block wall up on top there, nobody could even see the roof of a RV until you get clear up to the top there. And if we have some commercial along that frontage, that's going to be hidden as well.
Yeah, I go back to, I guess I get torn with this because property owners have rights, and I certainly understand you're looking and saying, hey, here, we see a need. And I also look and say, is the community best served by an RV storage unit there? And so I said, I kind of get torn back and forth. But it'd be nice to hear if there's any other community members here, what they have to say.
Thank you, Kendall. Again, it's a public hearing. Anybody out there? Any additional questions or comments for Kendall?
Yeah, would this just be outdoor storage? You're going to do some interior
No.
heated or
Just
cooled,
outdoor?
or just outdoor?
Recognizing that in the future, that might not be there.
Why not?
Maybe it'll be townhomes.
Maybe
I thought
we
you were
could,
gonna say
maybe we
commercial
could,
center.
Well, honestly, maybe it will.
Maybe we
Maybe it
could
will.
trade you that storage on Telegraph for storage up here.
You want to keep your options open. That's what you're saying. Is it that?
Well, hey, some of us believe the world's going to end someday, so.
But you're not one of those. I know that.
No, I'm an optimist.
That's right.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kendall, very much.
Thanks.
No other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Move closing the session.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Very kind.
Nice night.
Granger, aye.
Idea.
Thank you. We'll move on. And we'll move on to item 14, ordinances. Consideration to approve an ordinance granting zone change request Z-17-23 by amending a portion of the Coral Canyon PCD by providing for a new street cross section on to be used in areas 7 and 24, providing guidelines for on-street parking for private streets and clarifying the requirements as it relates to off-street parking in townhome developments. Applicant Coal West and State Institutional Trust Lands.
So I'm just kind of bring up a few of those, get an idea of the main just behind this, but the 2-week holdover period is complete. So the application is now ready for city council action. Just a brief reminder that the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-17-23 for the zone change request, amending portions of the Coral Canyon PCD project, allowing this new cross section and also some changes in the parking as it just relates to the multifamily recreational zones. So I don't know if you have any questions since the 2-week time, and I'm glad to answer them if I can.
Any questions or comments?
Drew, I wasn't here for our public hearing on this. Was there any discussion that would be pertinent?
No, actually, there wasn't any folks from Coral Canyon here other than the applicant and us, and even in the Planning Commission, I think a few crickets, joined in, but that was about it that we had. We did have to table it at a Planning Commission meeting, but that was all adjusted because the original proposal kind of contradicted itself. So we came back, got the wording straightened up, worked with Sitla's fine with it. Coal West is now over the Sitla project, city staff. We're all okay with this. Again, it basically relates just to help out those multifamily. And I like what they did. If you saw some of the where they've done their extra parking, they put in there they had to have X amount of, so many toy areas as well per so many units. So I'm thinking I'm going to incorporate. I really like what they did with that, and I've already incorporated that into our PUD overnight vacation rental standard we'll be incorporating that as well.
I think they can't always do that 60-degree.
Well, it's going to be anywhere from 40. Yeah.
Sometimes it has to be 90, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, there will, but I think the toy hall, things will always try to be at an angle. It's like we talked about that in that Vita Sol one, is that the 90 thing is going to be tough. Even though people have boats, they're amazing. Once they had them for a while, they can turn a boat just about anywhere. But I sit and am in awe of most of those guys that can do that,
my
and
standard
gals.
is could I do it? And I don't
Yeah.
think most of those places could meet that standard.
No, but I really like this, that they put them at the 40 and the 60 degree angles. It really helps out a lot to give that. So I don't know if you have any more questions for me.
Any other questions or for the applicant?
Can't get back out. I like this a lot. Yeah.
All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve an ordinance granting zone change request Z-17-23 by amending a portion of the Coral Canyon PCD, providing for a new street cross section on to be used in area 7 and 24, providing guidelines for on-street parking, private streets, and clarifying the requirements as it relates to off-street parking and townhome developments.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Nice night.
Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
All right, that's approved. Item B, consideration to approve an ordinance granting zone change request E-17-24 to change current zone from R16, single-family residential, 6,000 square foot lots to R2, 1 and 2 family residential zone, located approximately 300 north, 300 east. Applicant Bruce Merrill.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is another 2-week holdover now completed, ready for council action. And stated this is going from the R16 to the R12. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-17-24 for the change from the R16 to the R2 zoning onto the City Council. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have had in the 2-week time period.
Is this the piece that I think we resolved, was it 2 weeks ago, or in Planning Commission, that in fact they did own that other property and could put a sidewalk?
Correct. Yeah, that
Along
strip that was down
300
there
north.
was the city corrected that and got that taken care of, and it's tied
So we
to
really
this.
draw that line, that red line down?
Yes, it could go to that dotted line. Yeah.
Okay.
And so they would actually be required that if it's only curb, they'd be adding sidewalk as well as part of the development.
Help the children, I think, to some degree.
And
have
a driveway,
sidewalk
they
there
could
and
put,
get
depending on
across.
how that design works out, we'll work out the driveways as well.
Okay.
Again, I apologize, I wasn't here for our public hearing on this, but I'll be honest, I have some concerns and some heartburn with the fact of the impact on a neighborhood that's all single-family homes, and all of a sudden we drop 6 units in less than an acre right there. And I understand we got school across the street, which kind of maybe lighten that a little bit, but I don't know, I'm concerned with that, I guess.
I've laid, again, you did miss our discussion but I've been working with this piece and multiple people who've looked at it for different things, anywhere from 10 units that I slapped them and said, on your way, down to 8, down to, and I've laid this thing out, even myself, just playing with it, trying to find the best, because I guess I just got tired of every 6 months someone coming through the door wanting to do something different. So I thought, I'm just going to find the max on this at an R16. You could get 5 lots on there with an R16. So we're talking, I know it's 1 extra unit by going to the R2, but I think the R2 is going to be a better layout instead of having
I guess
5 homes
I look at
all spread out.
Everything that surrounds that. I would lots rather see 2 lots,
Oh, yeah.
nice lots with 2 nice homes going on
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I think that's more beneficial to our community, more conducive to the neighborhood. I understand that everybody wants to come and slap as many as they can on those types of lots, but I guess I feel somewhat of a responsibility to the neighborhood to say, how do we preserve and how do we protect and how do I improve, if anything, at least preserve, if not improve, what happens on this corner. And I guess I have reservations that 6 units on there improves that.
Well, I totally agree, because the easiest answer would be for you and I just say put 2 nice homes, and that's the easy answer if someone can and wants to do that. It seems like, but I look at, because everybody's coming, it's like you also said in your statement that they try to get what they can, and it's an R16 zoning. So technically and that's what I look at, is there your worst case. I have to look at everything worst case scenario, because if it's not that, then we're not even here tonight, type of a thing.
That like I said, I look at it from one perspective and others look at it from their perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the world go around, is we each have our perspectives.
Yeah.
But I always look and say, oftentimes people say I can make more money by putting more units. And sometimes I would disagree with that. By the mere fact that sometimes you can do a much nicer
home,
a larger home with a beautiful yard that sells, that you can make as much as you can make off of 6 units in a thing. And you add to the neighborhood when you do it. And so
Question, and part of the question that I have is, in that location on that busy street right across from school, is someone going to put 2 larger homes in
well, that's
there?
what, like I say, you could put one where this is just me speculating, where I guess I look and say, hey, if I was going to do it, how I would split it up, I would put one facing 300 north and I take the other one up and face it on 300 East, just like the home to the north of it. I mean, it's a nice, beautiful home. It's right off 300 East. It's accessed off of that.
One thing that Councilman Belliston brought out was if you scroll down, Drew, at that hammerhead.
Well, let me go to another map. That note.
And,
Go down down
yeah,
below
which
that
could be,
subdivision that's in-
which could be put in there now, apparently. And so in other words, it wouldn't be, there it is. Wouldn't be much difference, I guess. I don't know.
And it's not that far away. That's
Similar.
there is the distance that you have. Yeah, see, and that's what I was just saying is that's what somebody, or like, and again, I only say that to you because that's what everybody's going to try to do. I'm not saying it's the best use.
Well,
I hope you didn't get me wrong that way.
I even look at a development like this, that's going to put single detached family homes in it. Because in those types of homes, you usually get people who buy the home and their families and they invest into our community. To where oftentimes when you get into twin homes and you get into more multifamily situations, it's more short-term staying in those types of facilities, and they really don't invest in our community. They don't better the neighborhood per se, because they're only there for a short while. And so I always look at that opportunities that we can put in to where we get families that are then become part of the neighborhood and they become part of the community, and they add to that. I think there's a component of our community that needs some of these smaller type homes. I'm not saying everything has to be an estate type thing, but
I will tell you,
so I apologize. I missed
oh
the
no,
public
you're
hearing
fine.
Because I'm reinventing the wheel here all of a sudden. But
yeah, and there is a little bit of a
my
unique.
concerns.
There's a little bit of a strange request that's been coming in the last couple of years. Is I've got some folks want to do a twin home. They're going to live in half of it, and part of their retirement is renting out the other. I've had some requests of where they, and I tell them, well, that's an R2, but I don't, you can only put them around here, and they're really kind of hard to get. But I have had people inquiring about wanting to do that. They'll live in half, rent out the other half. So that's a little bit of a security.
There's some of that
but,
goes on. I'll be honest, I have people all the time contacting me asking, where's a lot in Washington I can build duplexes on, because I'm looking to build rental units.
Rental units, yeah. That is the other exchange, no doubt.
And so I guess that's what goes to my mind when I see this, because that's what I'm being asked for.
Oh, yeah.
So it's zoned R6?
R16 right now.
So in other words, if we left it the way it is, it could actually have as high a density as if we changed it?
Almost. It's a difference of one extra unit. What are you going to end up with? It's 5 separate homes if they design it right. It's tough, but it can be done. And the other way, you're going to end up with 3 bigger units that are just side-by-side twin homes. So, but dwelling units per se, it's 1 extra dwelling unit.
Is the access off 300 East on that? I can't remember what.
Well, it was going to be originally because we had to worry about the strip at the bottom. That's no longer a worry. That's been resolved. So it can come off of either one.
It can, but do we know what the plan is?
Well, not yet, because we can't look at that at this time, unfortunately, but it will have to come because they're going to have to subdivide it. And knowing that's there now, I think all of us would feel more comfortable coming off of 300 North with to get back to the others. Of course, one will be facing it, but hopefully the access on the other 2 would come off of hopefully 300 North in this case.
So just a point of conversation. You can see the crosswalk from the school.
Yes.
So no matter what happens tonight, as this goes forward, we have to realize that's a crosswalk right there, and that just keep that in consideration moving forward.
Yeah, because the access is going to be at the far ends no matter what of the property. They wouldn't be able to be that close to them regardless. They have to be X amount of feet off, and they're going to have to get, back to those 2, the most west and the most north property lines where those are going to come in at. That's our intent,
Are there any other twin homes in that area?
Well, there's a lot in the area that we don't know about that are there.
I see.
There's multiple people doing
Well,
We're
they're not
doing
twin
basement
homes.
rentals.
Yeah, they're living.
They're
it's a
upper-
single- It's a
it's-
single-family residence now.
But and again, nobody's turned them
I
in,
think
so we're
the
not out.
closest you've got is down at the bottom of 300, there at 300 and Telegraph, we've got that multifamily project.
We have one just someone just took one here, like a half block from the city, right here on 100 North. Took a home and they got an R2 zone and did a basement rental. And then the gentleman up on Main Street, right before you go under the overpass, he has his home on top with a basement under. It was a manufactured home with a full basement. He got an R2 zone, but those are over under.
Yeah, the appearance is a single-family residence.
Yeah. No, they could do these that way, but I don't know, that'd be their, decision. They could do an over under, but sometimes it's harder to rent out the basement and then the garage scenario. At least a twin home could have, a garage on each side.
Has a nicer appearance than crowded five homes too.
Yeah.
You're going to have more open space if you do that. Might fit better on there than five separate homes.
You're probably right there.
Yeah, that was one of the thoughts I had too. I'm glad you brought that out. That's where, you had the 5 units versus 3 units.
To design it a little better, create a little more open space.
Yeah. Now, if this goes through, you still would see a subdivision, that would come before you. Definitely a plating on that, and you'd see all that, how it lays out that way if it gets to there. So you would have another look at this project.
Any other questions for Drew or the applicant? Anybody want to make a stab at a motion?
Apparently not.
Yeah, I'm still, like I said, I'm still torn with the.
Well, I'll make a motion just because I think we need to vote it down or vote it up. Okay, so I move approval of the zone change request Z1724 to change it from R16 to R2.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second.
Rick, nay.
Nice night.
Ranger, nay.
Ivy, nay.
That is denied 3-1.
Your motion just failed. So when you can say now, but I mean, I'll vote it. Deny it if you're gonna go back.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we deny the ordinance granting the zone change request Z-17-24, changing the current zone from R16 to R2.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Rick, aye.
Nice and nay.
I just like to see a little more creativity and see if they can do what they need to do within the current zoning. So Granger, aye.
Ivy, aye.
Okay, so it's denied 3-1. State a reason.
Was there
Well, yeah,
I always just ask because we always
Yeah,
get
my-
asked.
My reasoning is basically just the impact of the neighborhood with dropping that high of a density and in that tight of an area there and the impacts of those neighbors.
Again, we just like to have one on it because we're asked to do so in a denial.
Now I'd say I'm open to looking at both points of view. But I think I need a little more information to see how that might set out. It really might be that we would prefer the other zoning, but
So if they brought back something to you that showed the 5 lots and all of a sudden you guys looked at it and go, ooh, then
that kind of thing.
Or
Show us,
something to
show us
that.
with the three twin
Either
homes
that
on
or
it.
show us 3 R110 lots.
It's done.
So how do we make an application if we deny it though? Is that like a?
It's a new, it's a new application, is what happens. Yeah, this one's.
I guess my comment is if we don't change it, can we not reapply it like that?
You can always reapply, but you know, we can't stop people from applying.
Well, we could, I know we've made the motion and voted, but I suppose another option is maybe to table it. If two of us who just voted for it agree, we could table it and ask for information about what the two scenarios would look like.
I'd vote for table.
I'd say she can, I mean, if they have a desire to do something different, they can come back through. Maybe that's an educational process previous to say, hey, this is really what we want to do. Maybe it becomes more of an education.
Can we undo the motion then?
This is the consternation we always have when we're at the zone stage, because one, there's a different standard of review and standard for the voting on it in a zone change versus a subdivision, because if you have the zone already and the subdivision comes in, which is the natural course it takes, then you can't deny it as long as the subdivision, which is applied under the zone, is consistent with our standards for that subdivision, for that zone. We would do it at this stage where you have this distinction between, gosh, I don't know, maybe in this zone, if they have it as a bring in X amount of units under the zone when they bring them as a subdivision, maybe I will like that better than just the current zone that comes in the subdivision. The problem is you don't have that information, because once you change the zone, there's no lock for what they bring in for the proposed.
You always have to look at
subdivision.
worst
That's-
case
And that's
scenario.
just a conundrum that we have there until we develop or come up with some idea of, it's like PUD
Well,
everywhere, but
So I'm thinking if we can't go back and undo that and table it,
But even if you could, what would even if they came in and said, brought you a plan of what they would like to, what they say they would propose, and this isn't because.
once they get the zoning, they don't have to do that.
They're not locked into that.
Yeah, I got it.
So we're not contracting that away unless we start walking into where we develop a system where we have a development agreement every time we bring a zone change in, which is in effect PUD, really, because that's what we do with PUDs. And it's frustrating for everybody, but that's a zone, that's also a big deal.
So part of what you're saying here is really the focus is always on just the zone.
Correct. You always have to just assume worst case scenario in a zone, and
unless it's a PUD,
unless it's a PUD.
which creates a little more flexibility for them, and maybe we don't have to charge them another fee again.
It's the only standardized system under zoning that we can basically contractually designate what the zone is going to be developed under. You know, we just don't have a system where we come in with a new zone and say, I'm going to contract with you that if you give me that zone, I'm going to develop like this. It just brings in so many different problems by doing it that way.
And I know that's the concern that really Drew has a lot of times, is when we stretch these particular stages of the land use process out and actually start to slop over into other parts of the land use process.
One of the things I see is we get, everybody asks for tighter, more densities, and I just, to me, it's, just because it's R16 doesn't mean they have to be an R16, you know, they can come in and put 3 lots of, R110s, R112s.
And if they're going to do that, it would have been, that's why I say it would have been done on most cases. And,
Well, that's why I say,
but
I know
that's,
I can understand the development, I
Yeah.
can understand that, but at the same time, I think we have a responsibility to our citizens to look at their neighborhoods too.
Well, and we've already said this, but in reality, those will be new structures, and they may be nicer with more open space the other way. But, if we're trying to think about the neighborhood, we're probably going to opt for the lower density.
Exactly.
You know,
Oh,
but
it's-
it might not be our best decision, I guess I'm trying to say is you know, which of those two things is best for the neighborhood? Well, we have no control over what they do once we
Correct.
change
Once
the
the zone
zone.
changes, you're.
Yeah.
like you said,
And
the
I
best.
always take into consideration when I look at all these as streets. That's one of the first things I'll say, okay, you want to go a little bit here, let's look at the street. Now, if I'm on two interior streets downtown that don't have a lot of traffic, then no, I don't want to see that. I want to see more of the scenario like Councilman Turk says. I want to see the bigger home on a bigger lot. When I get to a busier street, it's hard for me to ask somebody to put a bigger home on a big. So that's, just in my 20 plus years, that's just the experience I got. Is that, busier, bigger streets, a little bit tighter, densities with people, less busy streets. You want to be more comfortable with the bigger.
I'll point out so
Yeah.
that people can say that I've stayed consistent. I had one in this community over down below by the Nyson Park that actually had some townhomes adjacent to it that a corner lot came in and wanted to put a threeplex on it.
Yep.
That at that point I voted down, it was too much for the neighborhood. So I've stayed consistent in my
Yeah.
thought process.
Well,
It isn't just this project.
Yeah, and the additional factor here, especially when you're looking at the zone change level, is the fact that part of the decision and the risk that you face if you wanted to allow a different zone or, a multifamily type of zone, is the fact that, one, you can't be guaranteed it's gonna come in exactly as portrayed, just because you can. Just because you have the school across the street. That's the issue with, I think, with everybody with this one, because the risk is higher. If it did come in, not in a perfect scenario for that multi-residential, but a school, you can't overlook that. And if that school weren't there, maybe it would have been a different decision from a zoning standpoint. That's not a perfect system we've got.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Item 15, resolution, consideration to approve a resolution appointing the 2017 poll workers managers for the upcoming elections, setting the compensation for their services and providing for other related matters.
Good evening. Thank you, guys. We are in the middle of elections, and one of the things we need to do is get our poll workers approved. On the bottom of the resolution that I gave you are the name of our poll workers. They will be either working one of the general or the primary election, and or both. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of short. It's right in my eyes. Have any
So
questions
do
with
we-
any other
I mean,
people?
Do we need to set compensation or is that just automatic?
We
That's-
cannot go higher than the county, and that is what the county pays right now. The only thing that we do that the county doesn't is we provide lunch on election day, because it's a long day.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Yeah. Certainly appreciate those.
And the,
They've got a
no,
lot to
he has
learn
not
this
been my
time.
lunches.
They've got to learn a whole new system, haven't they? Those new
Yeah, a
machines.
lot easier one.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be great.
I think we need to get them honey baked ham. I'd be able to get out of my mind since you said that.
My mouth's been watering since it.
But yeah, and the fact that we do give lunches, I think it helps bring our judges back every year for us, so.
Because they only need to eat once a year, or?
Well, yeah. Well, they have elections every year. There's some type of election, and
It's the quality of the lunch. is
that's
what
right.
she's saying.
And we do have the judges that come back and say, we are appreciative that you guys think of us, so.
That's nice. It is.
Bribes, no, not really. They don't get paid enough in a lunch to be considered.
All right, we need a motion.
Move approval
I'll
of the
second.
ordinance granting zone with appointing the 2017 poll workers managers for the upcoming elections.
I'll still second.
Okay.
Motion and a second.
IDI.
Granger, aye.
Nice night.
Turk, aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Anything to report from your assigned committees?
Yes, just quickly, just to touch again on our celebration for the 24th here. It still just reflects what I feel is the real heart of Washington. I think that there is the very best of our community on Cotton Days, 4th of July, 24th. And, you know, to see our mayor cooking pancakes all morning and Pronto Pups all afternoon and everyone else that were so diligent in giving their time and efforts. And it was just amazing. And I am very optimistic that we can put together something wonderful for next year and ongoing. And thank you.
Maybe just a suggestion or a thought. Maybe we just, if the Days of 47 is something we want to participate in, that we invite them to help us on that one day. And they can do whatever they want and get funding.
Well, I'm certainly, like you say, if that's, yeah, I would agree with that if that's what they want to do. Sounds like they kind of have bigger dreams
Right.
and aspirations and whatnot, but I think that certainly if I would, you know, I've had a lot of thoughts with this and discussions, and one of those being that maybe the city has a point man or a point person that kind of heads up and chairs the committee. Outside of that, I think that we still, I mean, I guess I always like to go back to the roots of it, and it's still celebrating a religious kind of holiday. And I think that we can still utilize those units to help us to fulfill parades and some of that stuff.
Right.
And we just need somebody to coordinate and correlate and be the point man for that. And funding obviously is going to be an issue. And I think that it is an important enough day to us that as a city and a community, we want to make sure that it's funded one way or the other.
And so the question is, what's adequate for one day? And I don't mind that they help us, but it's not $50,000.
Correct. No, I would agree with that.
Now, what is a reasonable amount for that one day? And then if they want to help us with that one day, then that's,
Yeah,
you know, that's,
I felt that Councilman, his $2,000 was right in line with what my thinking was, basically.
what we should provide for one day.
Yeah, exactly. I would think too, you know.
Well, I think one of the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You know, the one thought that I had is that, you know, getting food vendors there, we've got to charge them a very low amount to get them here. And I think the mindset has been that we charge more for the food vendors, that we have more money to spend on other things. But I think that doesn't play well for what we're trying to accomplish. If we charge them a lower amount to come in, and we have the services they provide, if we can provide some cover money like that keeps those costs low and we get people here to participate, I think that works to our advantage.
Yeah. I see the food vendors, basically, like you say, I see that seed money or that money being more utilized for like your game booths, for prizes,
Yeah.
those types of,
Absolutely,
of
yep.
things, maybe, you know, more for the kids part. I mean, really,
That's who it's for.
That's the gel of it. And so that's kind of where I see that money more going to. I think the food vendors add to that. They give us options to choose to eat at. And so certainly it's a way that they can make a little money while they're here. So they add to the ambience of it.
Well, I think and I totally agree, Councilman. I think that we have the infrastructure, if you will, to put on a celebration. We've got the insurance, we've got people in place, we've got all those amenities to do it. And then maybe just have Days of 47 add to what we're doing. Then at least we know what we're doing and we can
That's the
move
thing.
forward
Like I say,
without.
I guess I'd like to know what their desire is, or
Yeah.
if they would have that desire to say, okay, Washington City, we will invest on you for the 24th, the day of the 24th. We want to be your organization. Then we work with them and within that, fund that day for them. But
Well, I think that's the first discussion we need to have, is to find out what level of commitment the other stakeholders have in this.
Well, I was just going to mention, so I had a conversation, it was not related to this, but this came up the other day with one of the local LDS units and one of the members there. And I still got a sense from his discussion is that there's still a desire to have a good commitment to this. It's just become so confused over the last couple
Yes.
of years
Yes.
that they haven't known where to go with it. But what I originally sensed was a lack of interest on their part. I think I was wrong with. I think there is an interest, but they would like some clarity.
Does it sound like what we've discussed tonight, that they would be on board with that?
Well, I think yes, and whether it's you or the mayor or whoever, I think that reaching out and having those discussions with those particularly primarily the one local unit, the local unit here has kind of always kind of at least overseen it. They haven't always done it. They've been able to dish it out, delegate it out. But and I talked to the member that was from this unit here locally, I think they're still very anxious to play a significant role, but they're as confused as everybody else is on what that role is. And in some cases, they haven't appreciated the role that is even.
Well, the question is, are we going to give leadership to it, or are we going to participate in it? And if we don't give leadership to it, really doesn't seem to be an organization that's going to do that right now.
Well, unless.
Yeah, we don't, I think our perspective from staff is we prefer not to show leadership because we think it's always been historically kind of we'll call it a citizen organizational driven event. But then we come in and of course support that, add that as part of, and we become one of the partners, and we become one of the partners in a variety of ways. I still think the local unit would give leadership with respect to this. I think that, again, they just kind of stepped aside because they've kind of had the indication that, well, you're not the leader anymore.
Maybe that's a situation.
Yeah, maybe
Other
that's what it
entities come in and said, here,
We're the
we're the new guys that's going to take this over for you. And so maybe that's where the discussion needs to go back to, is to that local leadership group and say, what is your desires? I mean, take it and take it the way it has been, problem solved.
Well, and I will also mention, at least a couple of years ago, and I can only speak this, I'll speak from my own personal experience, from an area level LDS organization. The stakes were supposed to take the leadership on this. There was conversation that occurred on an area level with not only the stakes, but also with the Days of 47 committee. And it was made very clear that the state should be the ones to lead out on this. And this was the role that the Days of 47 could have and could not have with the stakes.
Maybe we could get very specific about what role we would be willing to play. That is, we would donate the park, we would do this, we would do this, we would contribute this much to the effort. That's our delineation. That's what we would do if they will take the leadership, and we could get maybe clearer about that so they know.
One thing just to bear in mind, because the issue came up this year up in Salt Lake County, and that was to the extent that the city participates monetarily in it, you have to comply with certain, fundamental participatory rights and stuff. And a distinction came between the Days of 47 parade and stuff, which was all a private enterprise the state didn't contribute to, or the city, and Provost Freedom Parade, in which the city contributed, the state contributed, and there was a difference in for example, who you could allow participate or not participate. But once the city starts participating in money, we're bound by everything we always would be if we ran it completely.
So the same thing as like Cotton Days.
Input or not, but it did in both those parades this year.
Well, Lehigh, maybe with that child that was killed too, who's got liability.
Yeah. Well, I think.
Well, I don't think we're worried about that.
Well,
because that's why we have insurance.
It doesn't surprise me that the Freedom Festival got to this point. That thing is just a big behemoth. So it doesn't surprise me that the Freedom Festival Provo got to this direction.
So what are you saying, Roger?
I think now too that we really participate. I think we've kind of forgotten how much we do participate. The fireworks, the community center, that costs a lot of money.
What did the fireworks cost us?
25,000.
Well,
25,000, is that right? 10,000.
10. Wow.
And I thought it was a great show.
Everyone thought it was a great show.
Okay, so 2,000 is not enough.
Yeah, great call.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
We're going to do the fireworks on the 24th. If that's all happens in Washington City, we're going to do that every year. So it's
loved.
Yeah, it's a given.
I'm just wondering if the first step then now is, as a committee, person from city council, that we don't get with the other stakeholders and have that conversation, bring that accurate information back for our discussions, and then move forward from there.
Well, like I said, I think it needs to go to your activities committee, your events committee.
Mm-hmm.
But I would encourage that you reach out to the provider who's provided in years past first. See what their level of desire is, because I think that they're most capable of moving it forward if they have that desire to step back
Yes,
in that role.
that's what I would.
Especially if they feel like that maybe they've got some mixed signals from the city of saying, have we been moved to the side of that? So I would encourage that, but there, I leave it to your group.
Thank you.
Anything else? Not with city manager report?
Just a couple of items. I've updated you on quite a few things that really have not changed, so I'll just kind of update on the things that you were working on and anticipating in the next little while. We're anticipating in the month of August to bring your water and irrigation master plans. So we'll plan on spending, those will take some time to kind of review. The 1100 sewer trunk line, the bid will be opened on August 3rd. The Warm Springs, we're working with Warm Springs, the boilers. We're working with the boilers with Ball Ventures, who again owns that property to the west, so we can align up the entryway. And I know I've mentioned this, so they're very cooperative, and so we're just working with the community development and myself and Jeff to develop some agreements with respect to that. And then the Cottonwood Trail we've received, if you remember, we redid some of the Cottonwood Trail with a grant. We've received a $25,000 grant. We've also applied for a $50,000 grant, which we'll know at the end of August whether we receive or not. And the goal of that will be to extend that to that trail then through that to the end of that east side, where we then get to the bridge and cross, and so it just doesn't end. And then we'll pick up, the goal then at that point is you can pick up the canal trail. Even though we haven't got it the canal trail developed at all, you've still got the canal trail easement, at least during the first part of that whole thing. So we'll let you know if we're successful on that grant. We were successful last year. This year, a lot less money. So, but next year we're anticipating a substantial amount of money on the state level for this grant program. So we may or may not be successful this year. They've written a good application, so we'll hope we are. And I think, Mayor, other than that, I don't think anything's too noteworthy.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
What's the date that Vickers?
If we're adjourned, I have a question for Drew.